Tyam, honorable mention.
No.
Yeah, I knew.
Right,
That's why I said
Get
it.
him out of here.
Get out of here, bro. Welcome back to Colors of Crunch. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded I'm joined by my usual, incredible, fatherly co-host, Jordan Drake, a.k.a. Steeleddragon, and we have another third special guest for you today, the recent winner of the TopDeck Invitational, the homie from California, the man on the most original deck you've ever seen in your life. We have Snack, a.k.a. Zachary Adler.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a brew.
How you doing
it's a
today,
brew.
Zach?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Really, really good. Yeah, enjoying my niche deck lists, trying to change the game, really shake the meta up a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, to
great.
talk about the top 15 decks in CEDH, we needed to bring on the King of Fringe. I think that was an obvious choice. And, I'm excited to see what you've brought today. As you can see from the title of the video, we are doing our quarterly-ish, it's every 3-4 months, something in that range. Top 15 CEDH decks in the format. We don't need to do it every month because that's a lot. It doesn't change that much. But every 3 months, there's actually a lot of big changes. Like, my list has changed quite a bit every time we've ever done this, and I really appreciate that. And that's not shitting on anyone who does it every month. It's just why we personally don't do it every month. It's great that you do it every month. It's great content. Works awesome. But everyone's list is always going to be made differently. And so one of the things I think is really powerful is to kind of give your explanation of what your mental criteria or feels were that led you to, towards creating your list. Like, what was kind of your thought process of breaking down what is the top 15 decks? Was it how you faced them? Is it your fear in them? Is it what statistics are? Like, what'd you go off of, Zach?
I did a little bit of everything. I wanted to have something that would be representative of where I think the meta is at its most current state. And, we talk about it a lot, like the meta, but we get such a tiny view based on the games we get to play. And actually looking at where tournament results are at, and also our experiences is I think part of what you have to do is just bring it all together into something that's a little more cohesive and not just purely based on data or just based on experience.
100%. And let's hear from the second best beard in the room.
All right, go ahead and go.
Oh, yeah.
So my criteria is a little bit of a mix of a few different things. I did look at the statistics and take that into account, but I also, I guess, vibes based, just decks that I'm like, okay, like I like this deck, I think it's really good, or maybe this deck is one that I'm just like, I'm not so sure about this one. Even if it's got good stats, it doesn't necessarily mean much. Like maybe just some good pilots picked it up. So I definitely took a little bit of like a statistical approach to kind of start the list and then flesh it out based on my own personal experiences with these lists, both piloting them and playing against them, and then just decks that I think are still really good, but maybe underwhelmed statistically for whatever reason. I still would rank them there because I think that they're viable, solid CEDH decks that would rank above others that maybe are having a better statistical snapshot right now.
Yeah. On a similar vein, I definitely took a ton into account of the current meta and how I think these decks exist in the current meta. And my personal opinion of the current meta, to explain that a little bit, the long-term cyclical change of CEDH is Stacks loses to midrange, midrange loses to Turbo, Turbo loses to Stacks. That's kind of the cycles we generally go through, though the meta often does stay more towards midrange or Turbo. It's not as commonly in a Stacks-based position. It's just sometimes when Turbo's really heavy, Stacks does okay, and then it quickly switches back to midrange. But so right now I think we're on that transitional point of it's been so midrange for so long, and Turbo's like, why would we not just jam? Everyone's mulliganing for advantage engines and not interaction. And so I think Turbo's in a phenomenal place right now, a really phenomenal place right now. And because Turbo's in a really phenomenal place right now, the few decks that can actually play some Stacks effects, I think, are exceptionally powerful right now. Like, genuinely exceptionally powerful. And that comes from twofold. One, Stacks is phenomenal against Turbo. Just slamming down a piece that stops everyone is really, really good. But the other thing that's different than normal, when you go through history and you look at mid-range decks and why they beat Stacks because they have the answers to break through Stacks. They are the ones that can remove the pieces and win them when they want to. And currently, the way mid-range decks are built, especially because a lot of mid-range decks are leaning towards proactive capability or heavy stack interaction, they can't take things off the board. I've looked through a ton of the major CDH decks lately, everyone's list. Most decks are on like 3 ways to get rid of something. They're on not much at all. And Ottawa is one of them in every deck, which is the one that's hard to counter, but most of the other ones are really easy to deal with. And so that's kind of my basic considerations. And then my thought process for how strong a deck is. I care about statistics in that I will check them, and I think that they're a good thing to put into consideration. But my mindset when I'm considering the power level of a deck is never, what's its average position doing? I don't give a shit if a deck has been played 101 times and 100 of those players don't have any idea how to play the deck and one person's a master of it. I care about a deck's ceiling. That to me is a real example of what is the most powerful deck. Because if a deck is incredibly difficult to play and most people can't play it correctly, but people who can play it correctly play it at an exceptional level that it becomes one of the best decks in the format, that's how I view that deck. I'm always considering what its ceiling is, not what its floor is, but I still care about its floor, right? And that's where you get decks like Blue Farm's probably going to be pretty high on this list, where Blue Farm has an exceptional floor, so statistically that deck is dominant. That's my quick rant about how I came up with my list.
I like the criteria you're using there. The sad part about just kind of context there, when stacks, I feel like it's always the briefest moments that it can exist. Right, it's really that transition switch whenever things are flipping back and forth between mid-range and turbo. Because sometimes I've wondered, are we truly in in a 3 deck style format, or is it really 2, and then you just have kind of this brief little? It's so narrow where it's here's a stacks decks can exist. And
it
then
was exactly June and July of 2023 when time was dominant in that 2-month period, and it was a miserable time to be alive. But as you'll pretty quickly see with some of the decks I'm talking about today, I'm putting value in being able to incorporate stacks, but I'm not putting value in being an entirely stacks-based strategy.
Right. So you would value being able to slot in the curse totem, but you don't value Winota.
Yes.
For example.
That is a great way to put it. If you want me to go first, my number 15 deck is a perfect example of this. Me and Jordan will also be going to the COOKOUT. The COOKOUT is an awesome, giant 10K to 25K, ranging on player attendance. I'd expect it to be at least a 15K at a minimum event that's going to be happening in Atlanta. It's going to be happening on October 4th and 5th down at Charlie's Collectible Card Show in Stony Mountain, Georgia, where so many amazing CEDH events happened. Please go ahead. There will be a link to that in the description below. You should absolutely sign up and come meet us. Feel free to come say hi, and it's going to be an awesome weekend.
Yep. And if you have a chance to take a look at the awesome playmats that are going to be for this event, you can go ahead and pre-order it for $40. We have them, or they have them in English and in Japanese. So special treat. And these playmats, like Max and I have been talking about for the last couple weeks, super sick. We will definitely be picking them up for ourselves. We highly recommend you do so as well.
They also said they're releasing some foil ones. I'm sure those are going to be sick.
Ooh, that's super sick.
Oh yeah.
Foil playmats are awesome. I really regret not picking up the foil Vivi mat just to have the foil Vivi mat.
That's cool.
When that was rolling around.
Sorry, I'm also covered in chalk. I was at the climbing gym all day. I came home and immediately I'm doing this, so I didn't have time to change. I have a sweatshirt for when it gets colder, but whatever. Sorry, I'm covered in chalk. My number 15 deck in the format is Timna Halana, which is a deck that have very few people succeed on it. It is exactly Niall Kelly, and I've been playing the deck recently with some friends locally, and that shit is insane. The reasons I like Timna Halana. This is a deck that people do not expect. When I see Timna Halana, I am expecting a slower stacks-based strategy that leads into Hulk combos. This does all of that. It has a couple stacks effects. Specifically in my list, I added one more. It has Drannith, it has Oof, it has Oppo, right? Those are the stacks of the deck. Very strong stacks. Drannith and Oof specifically, I think, are 2 of the best stacks pieces in the entire format right now. I think they are in an incredible place. And this is a deck that can just play them super comfortably. It's a Timna deck. They're Timna attackers. They're 2-mana creatures. It's not a big deal. It plays a crap load of creature tutors. Just like when I say a crap load, it plays a crap load. Because this entire deck is comprised of essentially combo pieces, mana, tutors. That is 95% of this deck. That's all it is. And it's not just a Hulk deck. It's also a Warren Soul Trader Forsaken Miner combo deck. It's also a Chain of Smog, whatever the other piece is called, that 2-mana Golgari creature. That one. It has that combo.
Witherbloom.
Witherbloom Apprentice. Thank you. This deck is hyper efficient and hyper consistent because it is so ungodly tutor heavy. Pretty much anytime you go out for this deck, you will win on turn 3. And I think that is a phenomenal place for a deck to be right now because when you look at the if you think about like some kind of graph chart, whatever, where the x-axis is like turns in CDH and the y-axis is the power of the deck throughout those turns, you get some decks that have very clear bell curves and some that are very strong across the spectrum. And I think that being strong early but still being able to win late is a very good place to be right now. And Tymna Halana is one of those decks that shocks you out of nowhere with being able to win very consistently on turn 3, but at the same time can always slant an Abolisher and win through silence effects just because it's Hulk combo type stuff. And I think that's a really good place to be. And this is a deck that I think a lot more people need to be playing just based on how it's felt immediately in my hands. I know I touched on it in our last episode, but it's a deck that I've been continuously impressed by. It's a deck that is so new to me in the types of cards it's playing that the fact I've been able to stumble through it knowing I'm playing it terribly and still get a lot of wins on it means a lot. It's one of those decks that has given me the feelings in my bones of this deck has potential, and I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, it's a cool deck. I like what Halana brings to the table. Actually, I think it's a really cool inclusion, and it's a really cool card on some of the stuff that it can do. And I'm always happy to see Abzan decks do well. I think Abzan's like one of the most underrated strategies, and I think it's a really cool color combo pairing and some of the cool stuff you can do. And to see a deck that can also do it without like relying so heavily on the Hulk lines, like it can do it in a bunch of different ways. It's also, I think, pretty unique for Abzan decks.
Mm-hmm. Well, just to dovetail about what you were saying, like the whole three deck strategy or 3-deck rotation thing. I think someone else was saying this, but like the stacks is not as present, but the big rise of like quote unquote parasitic decks, I think, is a lot of what's been emerging lately with like the semi-blue decks and a big flips Kinnan deck, you know, like not running a lot of interaction and just trying to push your plan exclusively. So I'm curious if Tymna Halana kind of sits in that pocket a little bit, or if it has those stack strategies. Like you mentioned, you know, you call them stacks pieces. A year ago, they would have just been hate bears and blue farm. You know, aside from Oof. But yeah, I haven't played it in a while, but Tymna Halana was a deck I played for a long time and I thought was really, really cool. So I'm glad you mentioned it.
The way to think about it is, I mean, yeah, stacks, hate bears, they're on a similar vein of thought, but I think I think it definitely falls in that vein of like, it's really not trying to interact with you. It's just trying to win the game. That is absolutely the goal of this deck, and that is how it's designed. But I like having such a simple, basic, small package of inclusions that are accessible very easily when you need them, that are super good at just buying you a turn or two. And a lot of times in Abzan, that's all you need, right? Like if you slow down, if you're against the Rog Sai, slam the Draneth, right? You've bought yourself a couple turns, and then you're able to set up for your thing super, super well. And I think that playing creatures is just a perfect spot for this deck based on the twofold of super easy to tutor for, and it's a Tymna deck. And like Tymna as a creature gives you such a stable floor of any deck because you just have card advantage in the command zone.
True. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. Well, yeah, to dive into mine, my number 15 is an honorable mention for others. It's Marnius Calgar. And, you know, I personally am not a huge fan of playing Esper. I think it's a bit of a boring wedge. It's very much like a mid-range dedicated, often control-leaning thing to be doing. And I'm slightly biased because I have a really good Marnius player in my local area, and he's able to navigate both the mid-range base pods and the turbo base pods quite well and establish more in the late game. So I just think with the decks, with a lot more decks running less interaction, more decks going tutor heavy, having a deck that is control-oriented and plays cards that are going to stop those creature-based and turbo decks and then survive really well in the mid-range has a chance of being quite good right now. And I think it was seeing success even in the heavy mid-range time. So definitely not something I thought I would include, but it made my list at number 15 for those reasons.
Jordan,
I think that's probably a good place for it. It's still Esper, still a good deck. It just struggles to close games sometimes.
It does. Yeah, it definitely does.
I do love when people call like Dimir and Esper boring wedges, and it's always like, what's your flavor, right? Like everyone has their own flavor.
Right.
For me, that's such an exciting flavor because you have to think so hard and you have to play so optimally to interact with people, and I love that shit. So for me, it's like least boring way to play, but other people hate that shit and want it to die in a hole, and I respect that. The same way I want Abzan to melt in a trash can. Like it is just is what it is.
All right, yeah. So my number 15. This is where I have the Bear Lumra. I like this deck. I just think, like at its peak where I've seen it, it's extremely hard to interact with. Very resilient to any kind of interaction or pieces that you can play against it. Being able to just pull lands out of the deck and play those weird lands and do the combo, and it's almost all land based. There's been a few times where it's just like, oh, it started and it's gone, and there's really nothing you can do to stop it. And I think that's pretty unique for most combos. Like generally, as long as there's not some type of silence effect, you usually have something you can play to stop a combo line. But some of these Luma lines are really just it's lands, and once it gets going, it's going to go at instant speed, and there's almost nothing you can do to interact with it. And I think that's pretty cool. The only issue that I've kind of had with the Bear is that it being mono green means that there's sometimes where if you do counter the Bear the first time, it just doesn't get going and it just sits there and does nothing. It also every Luma player I've played with tends to also be a very greedy pilot, where they push the Bear, I think, sometimes into non-optimal spots or make non-optimal plays where it's like, hey, all I can do is go because I'm mono green. Like, what? I can't sit here. And I think that's an understandable mindset to have on the deck. The problem is when you're playing into pods that can either play the more mid-range or control-y decks, and you're not playing against other parasitic decks, I've seen the deck either throw games into weird board states or just kind of fizzle really, really quickly. And then they kind of sit there the rest of the game being a non-factor. Then it becomes, functionally a 3-pod. And that's the reason I have the deck so low, is because even though it's really cool and it's really hard to interact with, and it's probably the only viable mono green deck I think in the format right now that can competitively compete with the top decks, I think that is a play pattern that I've seen emerge even from the top Luma pilots over and over and over again, to where they just kind of consistently get into that same space of I only can make the greedy play, and the greedy play maybe isn't always necessarily the correct play. And again, like Max, we were talking about how like part of yours is like at the ceiling, what can this deck do? And even at the ceiling, I've seen this deck, is it still the very parasitic, greedy plays to kind of push through some of that mid-range stuff that comes up.
I mean, I think with Lumra specifically, you talked about this is what I got, I'm mono green, this is what my deck does. To some extent, that's what Lumra is. And it doesn't make it an incorrect mindset or an incorrect thing to do. And yes, the result of it can be often chaotic and will sometimes throw games, but it doesn't mean it's the wrong thing for them to be doing. It's honestly just a weakness of the deck that its strength is so powerful, right? Like Lumra is a football team that has the best running back in the league and spent all of their salary cap on their O-line. And said, fuck defense, like, fuck anything else. We're going to see if this run game gets us there. You know what I mean? It's so powerful. And like, their strength is so strong. And they are a deck that says, force check, right? Like, I have Pact of Negation to Zuranorb. Do you know how bad that feels? like, you know what I mean? So it's a strength of the deck in that it's so good at doing what it's wanting to do. And it's a weakness of the deck that it is very locked into doing that thing. And that's what it's got.
Yeah. Have you guys played much against minstrel decks yet?
Here and there. I have someone who's been running it, but I've seen the build in a couple different ways where it's just the 5-color good stuff turbo deck, and then I've seen the more hidden Commander Lumra lands build.
Yeah.
At number 14 is the Wandering Minstrel.
Nice. We are so in sync.
That was in fact my number 14. Nice. Specifically, what I was saying about the Wandering Minstrel is I love that it can do Loomer combos or be really fast, and you don't know what you're up against. And I think that's a good thing. Loomer combos are some of the hardest to interact with combos in the format. Lands are really difficult to deal with. Like, lands are just fucking busted. We don't live in a format with land destruction and land interaction, and if your combo is lands, you're probably going to win. But the fact that you might be expecting, I need to deal with these lands, and then they Necro Breach you, is fucking, which, like, 5-color Necro Breach decks are just good. Like, they just are powerful. They're really, really busted. Getting to Nas with a Beseju that comes into play untapped is kind of crazy. So, the Beseju that makes your stuff uncounterable, not the one that interacts with the other thing. You know what I mean. This deck is really, really cool. It's not a deck I have very much experience against at all, but it is something that I've heard enough phenomenal things about from a diversity of people that I have confidence putting it in the top 15. Like, this deck seems really strong, really busted, and I like when decks don't have a solved list. Like there isn't one thing you're up against, or even the various archetypes don't have a solved list, because I actually think that to some extent that is a power of the deck where it's one thing when you can go against a deck and see it across from the table and you know what you're up against. And I think it's actually a really good brewer's advantage strength of the deck that even if you know a deck is good, you actually don't know what they're playing. And I think that's super powerful, right? Like the fact that you could be against TNT and some people are fucking necroing right now and some people are cradle farming, and it's just like, what am I up against? You know, all those types of decks that have various versions of them, I think that is a strength to be in that position.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll talk more about this one when because it's also on my list, but it's a little higher up.
We'll move on. Land combo's busted. I didn't put Lumra in this time. I put the Wandering Minstrel instead because I think it's just better than Lumra overarchingly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, excited to talk more about it. I just, as a side note, I have a friend who plays Amulet Titan in Modern, and he just out of CDH for a while, came back in, brewed Minstrel, and it's like so cool. Like it's just, and I have no idea how to interact with it. So anyway, so my 14 might be an interesting one for some people, but I think it's at an awkward spot. Like I kind of wanted to put it higher, but I didn't know if I could. So my 14 is Yoshi Thrasios. It's the, kind of it's white Cradle Farm, sort of. Not playing, obviously the semi-blue stuff, but more of what was popularized by, I think Sam Sapper was one of the first Yoshi Thras players. But I have another local who played it a lot of this year, and I thought the deck was really strong, but it was always worse than Rog Thras, and the white utilization seemed okay, but not amazing. Like on paper, it should be like this Cradle Farm that can slam abolishers really quickly, and you have a cheap commander. Like it seems like it should all work, but it just felt like it was not quite as powerful as it should be in reality. So that's my 14. Something that I wanted to see do better, and I think did pretty well, but didn't, for me, deserve to be higher up than that.
Yeah, I think for me, the Cradle decks are starting to get... It does seem like people are starting to... I'm not going to say figure it out, but they've definitely started to tailor towards them. Mm-hmm. And I think that my issue with Dog Thras has always been it has none of the strengths that Rock Thras has in terms of like the speed, the pivot to breach, and song creation, but it has all of its weaknesses, where it's really reliant on being able to find Ristic to grind through some of those games, and really gets hurt by like Curse Totem or getting Thrasios and its reducers blown out.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have the same pivot places. And I think that's my biggest issue with the deck, because even Tevish, you can always pivot to like the Tevish thing.
Right.
Or TNT, you can pivot to Timno, or Rockdrass, like I said, you can pivot to the song creation or the breach lines. I've struggled to see Dog Thras really pick up well in the games I've seen it.
Yeah.
I think that deck needs a chair because it's straight cheeks. Like I don't think that ranks. I had a lot of faith in it coming out. Where like I was like, oh, this Cradle thing is so busted that this Abolisher version is going to be sick. That was my thought process, and I ranked it really highly when I first saw it. And like I've learned that what is so powerful about Rogthras is not just the pivot ability. That's a huge thing. The fact that it actually isn't fully reliant on Sport, that is massive. But it's also how efficiently that deck interacts. Like that deck is set up to interact immediately, and where I was talking about that like chart where the strength of the deck throughout, the fact that it can handle the turbo decks early by immediately holding up a fuckload of interaction on turn one, Dogthras cannot do. Dogthras is down so many pieces of interaction compared to Rogthras. It's not even close. And a lot of people are starting to build it even more like semi-blue style parasitically, where it's just like I'm on no interaction, and I'm like, okay, board wipe. like you fold immediately. I don't know. That deck is ass.
Yeah. So for my number 14, I have Malcolm Vile here. This is a pretty hard fall for it, but it is. I think it's struggling right now with its identity on what it's supposed to be, because it's struggling to out mid-range decks that it traditionally was able to hold its own against before, and it's not fast enough to beat the turbo decks. And like I know back when we were talking about this last week, Lily and I have come up with a new build that we still haven't had a chance to test yet live to figure out if we can solve that issue. But as of now, while I still believe in the deck and I still think creating mana advantage in the command zone is very powerful, and especially in a Grixis shell and a Grixis strategy, and there are some builds of it that are succeeding. I think the more control-oriented Malcolm Viles are actually doing just slightly better right now. The deck is struggling, and so that's why it's ranked a little bit lower here. I still like it. It's still Grixis. So, I mean, it's never going to be a major struggle because I honestly think the color pairing is so powerful that it almost doesn't matter what your commanders are. Like it's still going to do busted Grixis stuff, but it's definitely falling pretty hard. I think it's pretty far away from like Kefka, for example. I think there's a pretty wide gulf between that and Kefka, and definitely a bigger gulf between it and Roxai. And so I do think this deck can still figure it out, and I still think it'll be powerful, but it does feel like it's taken a hit. And the more that people were leaning into beating up on creature strategies, like I think the Cradle decks were actually hurting this deck because now there was more interaction that was needed to deal with creatures, which took Glinthorn out of the equation. And maybe we'll see a swing back around when the turbo decks start blasting people again, because all the semi-blue parasitic shit's just going to turn all the control decks back on and all the turbo decks back on. And then, we'll probably end up pivoting at some point back. But I think in the short term, Malcolm Viles is in a weird place right now in the meta.
No, I agree. Grixis has a stable floor of being busted fast, turbo win conditions, but Malcolm Vile is in a very awkward place.
Yeah, it's such a. It seems like it should be so good, like having mana and creature win cons, and then also being able to just launch Necros and Nazes. But it's like the problem is it's not really a creature deck. Like it's kind of a creature deck, but you really need the black tutors to enable that creature plan instead of just being able to slam creatures over and over again, like the really strong creature decks are doing right now.
Zach, you are
unfortunately
the transition king because my number 13 deck is Rocco Cabaretti Cater, a deck that could really efficiently tutor out creature combos.
True. With a
creature. Rocco is a deck that I've never had the most respect for. It is a deck that I've always thought is very beatable if you know what's up. It is very reminiscent to me of Sisse, where like you see the line. It's not very surprising what they're doing. You can see their mana. It is often on board, and you're aware of the situation, and good players should not lose to Rocco. But what Rocco's really good at doing, similar to how we talked about with Lumra, is force check. Like, do you have it? Because guess what? If my Rocco resolves, especially right now that they're on both Rectors and some of them are on fucking Falaji Wayfarer combos, like they are creature combo literal deck right now. That's all their deck is creature combos, and they have a bunch of them, and they're super resilient, and they can win through a lot of things. They can win through Wandering Protection, they can win post-combat, they can win through the Blind Obedience stuff. Like, it's just able to do the thing really, really effectively. And I've been impressed by how good I've seen Rocco look in games that I've spectated, and I haven't played against it too much. I actually I did play it one time this past weekend. A guy handed me a Rocco deck, and I just like turn 3 food chained him on like a weird fucking. I was just like dork, food chain, sack my dorks, treason soaker, win the game. Like it just does the fucking thing really well. And I mean, very similar to what I said with Timna Hawana. Its density of creature tutors isn't just it has all the creature tutors. It has all the creature tutors, and it has the literal creature tutor in the command zone to get whatever combo line you're leaning towards. Rocco is as consistent as it gets because it is a tutor in the command zone, and that's super impressive. And no one's playing Oppo right now because no one's playing fucking Stacks. So, and Stacks is so good right now. It's so good, bro. Oppo is gonna get so many of these decks. It's crazy. Yeah, I've been impressed by Rocco. It is a deck that I could see shooting up really quickly if we enter the meta of people continuing to be greedy and turbo. And Rocco it will win on turn 2 or turn 3 every game. It just literally has to, like, Rocco has one goal in its mulligans, and it is mana. That's all it needs. It needs nothing else. So it's kind of like Godot, honestly, in a sense. Like, Rocco is kind of reminiscent of Godot. And I think that's super powerful right now. It is also a deck I could see falling off immediately and not being on this list next time if people start being slightly more responsible. Like, which honestly is how I feel about a lot of these decks when I'm looking at my list. Like, if we shift towards people being responsible again, like a bunch of these decks become terrible. But right now, because people have been so irresponsible, and even though I trust myself to be responsible in pods, that's not what I'm seeing from the meta. So like, they're going to be good right now because people are not being responsible.
Yeah, I actually also have Rocco at 13, so I feel you, dog. Yeah, I think having speed, and it's like we're talking about the meta being turbo, and I think that's true to an extent, but it kind of feels like a turn 3 meta right now, where all these creature decks are able to really capitalize turn 3, and then I just don't know how the turbo decks aren't even better than they are, like a Rogsire or a Ral, because that's like usually a turn 2-ish, usually turn 2, turn 3, and I just imagine them dominating. And I think we're seeing Dexter, I believe his name is, just destroying people on Rogsai. And there's just not that many Rogsai players, which is crazy. But anyway, to talk about Rocco, I think you've said everything really eloquently, and I agree with a lot of your points. And it's funny because like Blue Farm used to be the deck that had the Dranniths and the Oppos, and you could kind of rely on them to do that. And now I don't think I've seen a farm list on either of those cards in months. And it's like, well, they're not running it. Who is? Like Lotho. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with you. I agree with what you said. And yeah, Rocco's in my 13 as well.
I did not put Rock on my list at all. I guess my issue is I just don't believe in a deck that's so telegraphed, which is funny because to say somewhere on here. But I think because Rocco is so one-minded, like it's very easy to stop as long as you're playing like even just a tiny bit responsible. And I think it's having a little bit of a moment right now because of the turbo meta, but I just don't see it lasting. Like I do really think especially with a lot of the semi-blue stuff that's starting to go around, that the semi-blue is either going to push us in one of two directions. It's either going to push us more towards turbo, and where I agree with Zach, where I think Rogsai and Rao are going to do more of the cleaning up than I feel like Rocco will.
Oh, yeah.
Or we're going to switch more back to a control-oriented shells, in which case Rocco's going to get blasted apart each and every single time.
Yeah.
And so I just don't like. I like the deck in some of its concepts. I just don't know that I believe in it long term. Like I do think it's having, and honestly, the other issue is
I have no faith long term. It's right now.
Same.
Yeah.
No,
but
Oppos.
even right now, I really only see one player playing it and doing decent. And I know like part of your criteria is like, oh well, if I see the one player doing it, but I think it's just one of those decks where it's like it's so pod dependent and it's so seat dependent that if you play with even one responsible player, it just does nothing. Mm-hmm. And that makes me just not want to rank it very highly. Like if a deck is so fragile that it can be taken out by one single card and it really struggles to get back in the game after that, I just don't know that I can put it that high.
Makes sense.
So for my 13, I have Vivi, which is a deck I really actually like.
Pronounce
but I do think it's having... Do what?
Pronounce the last name.
Ornithir. I never played the game, so I don't even know.
Ornithir?
No idea. I just want to hear you try. Pronounce Louis the Ninth sacrifice.
Oh yeah, Louis House.
Louis Schau's? I think I've gone with Louis Schau's. I'm on Louis Schau's.
Like
that actually makes more sense because it is French, right? Mm-hmm. So, or we presumably French.
In the Magic universe.
It's Final Fantasy. Yeah,
Final Fantasy make-believe French?
Yeah.
They were a French colony back in 1742.
Mm-hmm. You know? Okay. On the make-believe world that they were in. I don't even know what game that one's even from. I'm gonna guess chat, let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm gonna guess number 6. Final Fantasy number 6. Let me know if I'm wrong.
That feels right.
No idea. Yeah, actually, real question. What the fuck is Vivi in Final Fantasy? I have no idea.
Well, he's a black mage that turned good, I think.
Why is
That's
he?
As far as I know.
Why is he it then?
Good question.
Because
he turned good?
Well, because the bad guy is black-red. So what's the opposite of black-red? Is it blue-red?
White-green?
White-blue? Should he have been white-blue?
White-blue, maybe? I don't know.
I'm not a magic designer. I don't know these things. But anyway, so I have Vivi at my 13. I really like this deck. I think it's having a little bit of an identity crisis right now in terms of should it be built the more turbo, proactive, we're just going to push and push and push, or should it be that control-y, I'm going to kind of just control the game, sit here and, grind through until I find my curiosity effect and then win that way. I think I tend to lean more towards, I think the control variant, kind of somewhat similar to how the old Niv Mizzets were built. I think is probably where I would take the deck. I don't know if that's necessarily correct, but my knee jerk is to go in that direction. Because I think blue-red just happens to be a really good control shell, and the fact that Vivi can dump a lot of mana means that you can kind of put out some interesting creatures and do some interesting stuff with your control pieces. The issue is without card draw in the command zone, it makes me a little wary of what the deck does. And I think that's reflected very much in its percentages right now at its EV, because some builds are doing really well, some aren't, and some pilots are doing really well on specific builds. And it doesn't seem like there's any consensus even among Vivi pilots about which build is going to be more successful. Like I've seen Ian, for example, have a lot of success on the more mid-range control build, but then I know a lot of people who've done very, very well in the turbo build, where they're just sending it very quickly. And Vivi is one of those cool decks where it can actually turbo through a Ristic study, because Curiosity lets it outvalue that Ristic study. And I really like that about the deck. And I think that increases both the resiliency, the utility, and the way the deck can be constructed, because it has kind of that unique effect. And the fact that the Curiosity effect ends up becoming kind of a win condition as well. As you're just drawing through your deck, doing damage to people, you can then kill them with Vivi itself, or you can start looping stuff around with like Quicksilver Elemental or Hullbreaker Hordes to finish games. And that makes it really compact and have that really nice kind of everything you're looking for in a CEDH deck, right? It's got a combo outlet in the command zone. It's got really nice card advantage once you set it up a little bit. And so I think it's a really strong deck. And I think it's one of those decks that once consensus starts happening and the list gets a little bit more solved and the deck matures, I think it will climb lists eventually. I think right now it's just in kind of this weird space where it's like, we don't really know where to take the deck right now. But every game I've ever played with Vivi, it's a very frustrating experience because they run so much interaction. It doesn't even matter if it's the turbo or control variant. Run so much interaction. It's ridiculous.
I loved hearing you talk about VB's EV. That was really good. I do actually you a little bit though. I would not call it a control variant. I think it is a slightly more interactive mid-range variant. I'm a stickler for the meaning of control.
Well,
and I don't think Vivi is one of those decks that tries to shut down people's development. I think it is a deck that just tries to win harder, but through the mid game in the mid-range version.
Well, I guess I should say maybe there's like 3 variants then, because if you even go into like the Vivi Discord, they've got the control, mid-range, and turbo. It just seems like the mid-range and control have kind of blended together into one. But it is, I mean, because if you look at like those old Niv Mizzet decks, they are very, very much like we are going to control the game until we find Ophidian Eye, and then we're going to win. And I do think,
but they can do that because they have card advantage in the command zone.
Right. And that's where the control.
Vivi doesn't have that. Vivi requires and that's what is Niv's final win condition to even be its value.
Right, but that's like part of the weakness I think of the deck. But I wonder if, and I've seen some builds where they kind of build around that a little bit, because it was even the same thing with Niv, right? Like the problem with Niv is you had to survive without your card advantage until you could put Niv on the board. And while Dockside Jeweled Lotus made that easier, it was still a little bit of a struggle. Mm-hmm. But we've seen Niv survive with some pilots into this meta. And if Niv can survive into this meta, I think Vivi's just fine. Okay, what are you doing? This is gonna be the intro, the blooper.
Sponsor me,
please.
I love it. I want it so bad all the time. I run through Uncrustables at an unreasonable rate.
Same.
It's like if they sent you like a lifetime of Uncrustables, you'd advertise forever for them.
Bro, without question. Bro, I will use Smucker's sleeves at my desk.
I'll go hard. Spread jelly all over my cards.
I'm sorry to interrupt you with my. I burned a lot of calories. I climbed for like 6 hours.
No, you're good. You're good. I think the control element can exist. I think it'd be fine.
Yeah,
it's not going to be as good as the old Niv Mizzets were, but I do think it's a fine build.
Not as good as Italian.
Bring it to Cookout then, man. Don't be a coward. Do it.
I am literally considering it.
I'll be hyped.
We'll see what's on my list.
I'm honestly, and this is just recency bias, but I am so scared of Vivi in the 99 of Niv Mizzet. Like, have you guys played against Anthony or Glacial City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played against him at the Indy.
Oh, nice. Okay. Did he get Vivi out in that game at all?
He did not. He did get Niv Mizzet out, though. And then he got cloned by an imposter mech, which was hilarious.
That's brutal. Nice Niv, idiot. Yeah.
He's like, I can kill your Niv, but you can't kill mine.
Yeah. It's like, this was for a Bowmaster, and it's so much better as a Niv Mizzet. Yeah, but like just seeing BB in his 99 makes Niv feel like it's actually somewhat viable again, I think.
every deck that I've seen Vivi in the 99 has actually been kind of terrifying because it ramps so fast. And you're like, oh shit, like what's about to happen with this? Like I've seen an Atali come off of one where I was like, okay,
Fuck.
it was like because it was a Vivi in a Rock Thrash list, and then they went into Atali and then Displacer Kitten, and I was like, okay, well, GG's.
You won.
I did finally win a game on Rock Thrash recently by cloning the Dino and playing Displacer Kitten, and it felt great.
Yeah,
It was really fun.
So easy.
Did they
It's
scoop
so
to you,
easy.
or did you play
Yeah.
it out? Okay.
No. Once I had the Kitten Atali, they were like,
Yeah.
whatever. Which brings me to my number 12 deck, which is Atali Primal Conquer.
Okay.
They're banger transitions. In the world of parasitic semi-blue, there's one deck that reigns supreme as the master of I don't give a fuck. I will slam, and this is what I have, and we will see what happens together. And that deck is Atali Primal Conquer. Where in the world of everyone else trying to do it on turn 3, this deck's doing it on turn 1 or turn 2. And that's really what will always give it a leg up over the other options, is the fact that it just be doing that, and it has access to every card in the format because it uses your decks. I have a lot of respect for Atali. I've put it within the top 10 before. I think it's in a fine place. It's just also a deck that everyone's so aware of what it's doing that I see them get their rituals countered all the time now. So I think it's a little bit harder for the Atali player because people are so fucking aware. Like, there's no stacks Atali. That doesn't exist. It's you're doing one thing, and that thing is absolutely slomp your Dido on the table. You know, we'll see if that schlomp gives birth to wins or if it gives birth to weird game states. It's a mix of both, and the deck is very powerful. And shout out to Cam and the other people that have been dominating on it. Like, keep doing you. This deck is dope. And, you know, I hope that you continuously adapt it as the meta changes and the situation changes, because it's a great tech to have in the meta. I like that it's such a unique thing to be doing, and I think it's fine in a good place, but it's not something I'm going to quite call top 10, even though it did, like, it's a deck that can take down tournaments. We've seen that repeatedly, but it's not the deck I look at and I'm like, this is fucking it. Like, like this is the best thing you can be doing. You know what I mean? I look at it as a very powerful thing that you can be doing, but I don't look at it as like, he is him, you know?
Yeah. I think having the ability to be like the gold standard of Atali is turn 2. Like, that's pretty crazy. Like, having a Gruul deck that is able to win the game on turn 2 without cast, like, it's usually, like you said, ritual based, and those are pretty interactable. But just expecting that all the players are gonna, like you said, everyone's aware of what it's doing, but if they're gonna have something, like, you really have to be keeping a Mindbreak Trap against Atali or a Force of Will. Like, you cannot disrespect the deck. And I also think having it win the biggest tournament of all time is somewhat of an indicator that it might be, him, as you were saying.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Atali. I think this deck, I actually have this deck way higher up on my list,
Me too.
but I'll talk a little bit here. I think Atali's one of those decks that makes me question how Semi-Blue is even running around being successful, legitimately. Because this is a deck that does everything they want to do faster, and then you just give them access to all the big chunkies that they wanted, that they're now going to cast for free and keep going.
Apex Devastator.
I don't think we've yet. I don't think we've yet had the tournament where there's a bunch of Atali players into a meta that also plays a bunch of semi-blue. But I look forward to watching Atali dominate.
Yeah, same.
It's going to get ugly.
That's
It's
just
gonna
crazy.
get ugly really fast.
you get a fucking Maelstrom Wanderer and an Apex Devastator.
All my clones, yeah, seriously. The deck is built to make Atali better.
No, literally, it is kind of funny.
But I'll save the rest of my analysis for when I get to mine.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I've got it a little higher too. My number 12, though, is Zerda. And shout out to Wayne.
Someone has Wayne in their meta,
Yeah. I see this deck a lot. And he just won a tournament with it. So congrats to him on that. I know we've talked a little bit about... Yeah, for real.
Big Wayne fan, by the way. Awesome person.
Yeah.
Awesome
yeah.
person.
Yeah, just like top tier player and also person, and like a joy to play with. But I'm seeing, and the reason I'm positioning it here is not just because we're friends and because I see it a lot, but because it does both the things we've been talking about today really, really well. His build specifically. So it has linchpin stacks pieces like Aethersworn Canonist or Deafening Silence or and a lot of interaction, like all the silence effects, all the rebs and pyros and swats and flares, whatever. And then it also has these stacks pieces. And then on top of that, it's able to navigate through these stacks pieces and be fast. Like he wins on turn 2 a lot. And so I just actually do believe if more people picked up the deck, it would be quite strong for everyone. It wouldn't just be him and a couple other Zerta stands representing it. But it's doing so much, and it's like really a passion project for him and the rest of the server to have built something that is able to compete with the mid range. It's able to stacks out quicker decks. It's able to go faster than a lot of the turbo decks that we're seeing right now. And I do think that it's going to continue to dominate because it operates in a way that also people don't know what it's doing a lot of the time. Like a lot of people have never even played against a Zerta before. And I think it has a real advantage there too. So yeah, that's my pitch for Zerta for 12. I'm curious to hear what you guys think.
I'll be real. I looked at Zerta and I thought about putting it in my top 15 because I do have a lot of respect for Wayne's deck, and I wish I had now. Great points, like genuinely. Yeah. And I think it's the perfect example of what I was talking about, where I don't give a fuck if there's 1,000 players who have done nothing with the deck. If there's one person that can show what that deck's capable of, that is the real strength of the deck. And I think that is exactly what Wayne has done, and they are them.
They are them.
They are them.
That was good.
Yeah, I don't play against this deck enough to probably have like a really strong opinion of it. Like we had someone in our local play it in our local league, and it did the thing a couple times, but a lot of games I watched it kind of just sit there and be a passenger for the game.
Yeah.
What I do like about Zerta is it has a deeper interaction package than you might expect for Boros, which I think is really, really cool and really, really unique, especially even for Boros decks, because usually the only Boros deck I usually play against is like Winota consistently. And that doesn't have really much of an interaction package. It's just like 50 creatures and dump them on the board. So I do think that's really cool for Zerta. My biggest issue with it is a lot of games I find that they always seem to have the infinite mana piece in hand, but never the outlet.
Yeah.
And I think that's a consistent issue I've seen with that deck over and over again, where it's just like, yeah, sometimes they can have the perfect pieces to where they can do the infinite mana and then they already have the outlet. But most games I see it to where it's like, I've got the infinite mana and I've got nothing to do with it, so I still have to pass turn, and then Zerta gets blown up or Basalt gets blown up, and then they're just kind of sitting there again. Kind of like what I talked about with like Rocco, where it's once it gets kind of hit that first time, it just kind of sits there and it takes a little bit too long to set right back up.
Yeah.
But I kind of agree with you. Like it's perfect for this weird kind of meta we're in right now. But it's in the same way that like I think Rocco is going to struggle really quickly. I think Zerta is going to go back to struggling, very, very quickly once the meta shifts again, whichever way we go.
I'm thinking about this. This deck's busted. This deck's kind of brokey, honestly. Which
Boros
I think not having the outlet thing, kind of a pilot issue. I haven't seen Wayne have that issue when I haven't. Yeah, like, genuinely, like it's really because the important thing about the deck is the deck has 1 billion tutors for its combo pieces, but all those combo pieces, all those tutors to get the combo pieces also get outlets. Like there's so much overlap there, so it's incredibly like consistent in being able to obtain those things. But the combination of, like, you've explained it perfectly, Zach. Like, this is a deck that can win consistently on turn 2. This is a deck that can absolutely win the long game because it has all the abolisher effects. This is a deck that has selective stacks pieces that it can tutor for if needed. This is a deck that has a deeper interaction and removal package than you would expect it to. And it busted.
Yeah. And it can win at flash speed in Boros, which no one ever sees coming. Like, what the fuck?
I gotta say, Cradle to the Guild, that man cracked an E-Zone on me, and in response to that, I crop routed for E-Zone and flashed in a Song Creation.
My E-Zone.
So, eat my fucking E-Zone, brother. And Wayne just looked at me and he was like, yep.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
My number 12, I have Timna Dargo. So I have it pretty low. I have not been impressed with the deck recently. I'll be honest. I think it had a really strong moment there, but I've seen it fall off pretty hard lately. Every game I played against it, I haven't seen it do enough. Like it feels like it's always a turn behind where the other decks are, and it doesn't seem to matter maybe it's just because some of these games have gone really quickly, or if it's just maybe, I don't know what it is. If I'm being honest, like it's just been at a very like mid-rangey style deck, but then it felt like it was struggling to keep up with the really strong mid-range decks. And so there were a couple of games where it was like they were kind of there, but they were really falling behind. Both like my top 16 game against it and at the the Invitational, it was kind of the same thing where like it was starting to do the thing, but then it got outsped by like just a normal mid-range deck. And for a deck that I would traditionally think is more, Mardu and a little bit more turbo slanted, I would expect it to be kind of operating on a different axis. So I'm not sure if it's like kind of a build issue right now, or maybe it was like trying to adapt to a meta that isn't really there right now. But yeah, just over the last couple months, I've seen this deck. I've seen it kind of fall off a little bit and not play to the strengths that I'd expect to see out of Marty. Like I know Kellen was really killing it for a while there on the deck. And I played him literally round one at the Invitational. And like I said, he was just like a step behind me the entire game. And I'm on plotting old TNT, right? So I'd expect, he would beat me to the punch there. And kind of didn't happen in that game.
You told me how busted your round one hand was. Get out
of
here.
Don't get me wrong. It was good. It was the kind of hand that I've always dreamed of having, right?
Yeah, so like, yeah, let me call it deck bad because it didn't beat my god hand. Like, fuck you.
It wasn't a god hand. It was good, but it wasn't a god hand. It wasn't like a turn one smothering tithe or some nonsense, right?
Wasn't it?
But
just
it was
a poor inoculus with a cradle into a seed board or whatever the fuck it was.
That was like, but that was like by the end of the game I'd done that, right? That was like turn 5 by the time everything was put together. It was a good hand. It was not a god hand, but even that game, right? Like even with a good TNT hand, I'd still expect a traditional Timna Dargo list to outspeed me, right? Like that's I would traditionally expect that. Because a good TNT hand is still going to be a little bit on the slower side, traditionally. But like I said, even our top 16 game we had at the tournament in Atlanta, right? Michael on Tim Nadargo, and even though he was in seat 4, he was playing a little bit more mid-rangey than I would have expected the deck to play, especially in a pod where I mulled low. We have a Loomer in seat 1. Like you'd expect that deck is going to be, hey, if I have an opportunity to slam this shut, I'm just going to go for it. And didn't really see that happen there. And it's not the first time where I've seen Tim Nadargos who are playing on this kind of axis of leaning towards the mid range a little bit more than you'd expect, but then not able to close when they're playing mid range. So I still think this deck operates better as a turbo deck.
Pilot
I'm
issue.
Not seeing that right now. It's hard to say pilot issue when you're playing.
It is.
I'm playing against two of the best Tim Nadargo players, right? Like Kellen and Michael are
repeatedly on the deck, and Michael has also shown what he can do repeatedly. Like Michael is a turbo player. He kept a mid-range chance in that game, and that was a mistake, right? Yeah. And he will openly tell you that's a mistake. He has told you that all of his success in that deck is saying "fuck you, I'm going to try and win," right? But the thing about Tim Nadargo is it's a deck that can win on turn 2. It is mostly a turn 3 deck. Like that's really where its bell curve is strongest. It's a turn 3 deck, but it's a protected turn 3 pretty much every time. It's a very powerful turn 3. And it does it in ways that are difficult to interact with and in a lot of different ways, and it's resilient. I'm not going to talk too much about Tim Nadargo because we'll get to it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Like I said, this is just my personal take on it. Like part of it's the stats. It's lower on stats, and then my personal experiences with it. I just haven't seen it perform the way I'd expect a Mardu turbo slanted deck to perform.
I just want to be clear. You put it at 12. I'm disagreeing with you.
No, that's fine. You can disagree with me. I believe this is where I believe it should exist.
One thing I would say to your point, Jordan, is how good it was. Like Kellen back-to-backing double 300-person events is unheard of in a Sans Blue deck. And then to where it is now, just results-based, it just has not been doing as good. But I also agree with you, Max. Like I think the deck it still has legs. I think it was really benefiting from the hyper mid-range meta we were in, where it was the parasitic deck of that mid-range meta, and it was capitalizing on everyone being, sitting behind the Rhystic Studies and whatnot. And then it could have that creature-based plan and draw just as many cards and make way more mana and then land more silence effects and punish the mid-range decks, which is kind of what we're seeing a lot of the turbo or creature turbo decks doing right now. And I think it might be a little bit slower than those ones are at being parasitic. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's fair
We'll
analysis.
talk more about Intimidator.
Yeah, for sure. I have it later too.
At number 11, I have the deck that should never win a CDH game, but somehow continues to win so many CDH games. Good players should not lose to Sisse. How does this deck keep winning? Like, I'm
that's
at this
really low
point,
for it.
bro. I'm at a point of believing like the only way that Sisse players win the game is by successfully gaslighting their opponents to not see the mana that is on board. I don't understand how the fuck this deck keeps getting away with it. Like, you can count. Like people can count. You can look at the board. Like, there's so few things that you can't see. It's Can they activate once? Can they activate twice? How powerful is Sisse? How powerful could they make it if they have some of the cards? Like, what's realistic? It's not complicated. It's really not. I have much more respect for the Sisse decks that are heavily interactive than the decks that are not. The Sisse decks that are trying to do the almost semi-blue way before it was ever called semi-blue. I don't know why we're calling it semi-blue now. This has existed forever, but like, there's been Sisse decks for a long time that are on like they're on silence, and they're on a bunch of removal pieces for Oppo, and like a mind break trap and a force. Like, that's been their interaction package for a long time. They don't really have like a full counterspell package, a full interactive package. I've seen some Sisse decks that do, and those are the ones I like way more. Those are the ones that I think the most powerful way to play Sisse is openly politicking a way of not going for a win and going for advantage, and continuously being able to obtain activations by not putting yourself in a I'm winning right now position. I think that's the optimum way to play Sisse, and I think that's how you get away with shit. But that's not how I see people play the deck, and that's not how they're winning games, and it makes no fucking sense to me. Like, it's a deck I've eternally disrespected. It's a deck I have a ton of respect for, with a few very specific pilots who are phenomenal on this deck, and specifically when they're able to be sneaky with it, that's the most powerful thing. But it's not a deck that's easy to be sneaky with anymore. Like, back when Dockside was a thing, it was so easy for this deck to win out of nowhere, but now it can't really do that, so how the fuck is it doing it? That's my Sisse take.
Yeah, Jeremy Davis is a local of mine, so
Jer Bear.
that's where I see Sisse. It's fucking scary.
If I ever become gay and I want to marry a man, that man is Jeremy. I love Jeremy with a burning passion. Like, Jeremy Davis is one of my favorite people in the entire community. Yeah. And I see how he gets away with it, because he's really good at politicking it. He will politic to not win, and he's super interactive.
He's also
turn out that way.
He's just one of the most the lines that he sees, I think, are unlike any other Sisse players. So I get exposed to the best, and then when I play other Sisse players, I completely agree with you. I'm like, how? You know, I don't. I'm not sure, Jordan. If did you play against Dio at all in the Invitation?
I did.
Or, yeah, our game.
In our game.
Yeah. Aside from that game, though, did you see him at all?
I played Jeremy in the top 16.
You played Jeremy. Okay, yeah. I mean, our game, just to talk about that as like a reference point, it was like he just was slowly building. And it was like, do you have interaction to stop this? No. Do you? And then finally we got the Mayhem Devil to land, and that just ground the deck to a halt. But aside from that, it was like...
Crack his treasures first.
I just offered. I was like, you could. You could do that. It'd be great if you did. No, I watched that though, and I was like, "You're right. I do make those suggestions a lot, and they work a lot of the time." But yeah, I agree. I think Sisse is a hyper telegraph deck. I think the reason, and for me, it's a lot higher. But I agree that I don't think it should be. I just am looking at it, and it's actually doing quite well. And now the cool thing is that they're starting to be like, Bolus's Citadel is a legendary permanent. We could do that. You know, like
That's
the two...
so cope, though. If you could activate Sisse for 6, you should be winning immediately.
You should be. But it's a way, it is, in a funny way, a way to say, I'm not winning, I'm just getting an advantage engine, you know? Which is a win con most of the time. But thinking a Sisse deck's winning with the Citadel is a little comical. Although there was an online tournament that if you guys you know Brian Croce, the Dihada player, yeah. So he just top four'd that, and the top 4 was him and 2 other Turbo Nas Sisse players, which you could just say it's a 5-color Nas build, but they did choose Sisse for a reason, and I do think that Sisse adapting to the Turbo meta with the more clam chowdery style builds is interesting. Is it better than Rogside? Probably not. But it is able to attack have a turn 2 with a Nas and convert it. So, No, I hear where you're coming from on Sisay though. I really do.
The issue I always have with Sisay, because we always say it's hyper telegraphed, and it is. Like, definitely no argument there. But it also is a deck that almost forces you to always have it. And I feel like there's just a lot of games where I don't want to interact with Sisay's board because it just whatever they have just doesn't matter right now. And so it's by the time you're going around to be like, okay, maybe it's time to start interacting with Sisay, where you get into those weird discussions of, okay, is it time to use my removal here? Do I do something to this? I also think the deck is somewhat sneakier than people realize. Like, if you're not super familiar with the fact that, it doesn't take much more than like a Fabro Elder and, another card that's just the right colors to win the game right on the spot.
How is that sneaky?
Well, because if you don't know, right? If you don't know that that's all it takes is a Fabro Elder is that win. And I feel like it's one of those decks that's going to catch, especially as we play more of these big events, like these 300, 400, 500 people events. Those are the events where Sisay is going to catch players, right? Only a few games. It only needs a few games to win. And you're going to catch players that are not paying attention or not understanding like how Sisay develops, because we've always said, hey, it's telegraphed. Like, you should see it coming. But if you don't know that, oh, it's Fabro Elder and a Deadpool and then this and it's over, and you're like, oh crap, I didn't realize that's all it took, then it's going to catch you off guard. And especially if you haven't played a lot with it. I also think it's one of those decks that people forget about during games. It's like when people are drawing a bazillion cards with Rhystic Study and you see these Kinnan decks popping off and you see the Rogdrass with 30 creatures on the board, you start to go, okay, well, I need to interact with all this. And Sisay is just kind of sitting there going, oh, well, you haven't been counting my mana. I have 10 mana, and I have exactly the right cards to finish the game here and there. And that's how I think it's like it almost operates like a parasitic deck.
I see it happen, and I just don't understand how it happens, bro. Like
I think
it's
because the board states get so busy that when everyone looks scary, no one is scary, right? Like, that's the concept that a lot of those games devolve into. But Sisay is one of the few decks that says, yeah, the board's scary, but I win right through it. And you guys haven't realized that yet. And if you're not experienced with playing with Sisay, it's going to do that over and over and over to you.
Yeah.
And shoot, even if you are, right? I mean, how many times have you talked to like newer players or even like somewhat experienced players, but maybe haven't seen this deck all that often? And they go, I don't understand how I'm losing to this deck over and over and over again. And you go, oh, well, it's because you're not hitting the right pieces, right? Like, you're letting them set everything up, and then they just go on top of everything that you're doing.
Yep.
And if you're literally like, okay, a good example, right? How many games do you win on Rogdrass? Because people don't realize how busted reducers are. Like, it's the same concept, right? Where it's like, unless you understand exactly how these decks are operating
It's not
and know exactly which.
Let me get my answers.
It's just a biomancer familiar.
It's just a biomancer.
It's not a big deal. It's fine.
Right, but like if you put a Fabro Elder down and then you say, oh, I'm just getting interaction, and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, and you're like, oh, I'm just getting more interaction, and then you're like, oh, now I'm winning, and you didn't pick up on that.
Oopsie daisy.
Right? Like, that's all it takes.
Yeah.
And in a game where things are getting hairy, it's very easy, I think, for Sisay to kind of stick in there and just be like, oh, I have it now. You guys weren't paying attention. So I actually have this deck ranked higher because I do think, but the stats are excellent right now, to be honest. And I also think
keep getting away with it.
yeah. Well, I also think the more parasitic decks get, the better Sisay ends up being.
Yeah.
No, because it's too slow at that point.
Unless you play the Nas version and you're able to tutor silence effects to your board.
Sure. You
Like the Clam Chowder version
tutor
becomes a lot better.
one silence effect, but you also need Sisay plus another legend to do that.
Sure. Yeah. I agree with you.
That's 10 mana between. Like, it's not a quick Nas deck, right? It's activate
Easy.
Sisay for 5, then cast Nas.
Yeah. Well, I think. Sorry, go for it.
Oh, sorry, Zach.
I
was going to say, I think that Sisay's best format is when it exists where both turbo and mid-range are still in that weird place of like, which one is the dominant deck? Because I think all the pods I've ever seen Sisay win is it's a turbo deck sends it, the control-ish deck counters it, and then they don't have anything left for the Sisay to be like, plop, plop, I win.
Yeah.
I mean, that is the correct way to play Sisay, is be patient a lot of the time.
Yep.
Don't overforce it. Like that sit back and chill and just grind advantage. Like, that's what the deck wants to do. And it's another deck that has to, its mulligans are so simple. Its mulligans are mana. like that's it.
Yeah. And like you guys mentioned, there's just not a lot of removal, and being an onboard deck that is the other big thing, like you said, Jordan, is they do say, I don't really interact on the stack. I interact through tutors. So if you kill my shit, I won't be able to interact. That's Jeremy Davis 101. I'm like,
Yeah,
I go to remove
100%.
something. He's like, hey, if you do that, I won't be able to help at all. Like my interaction is tutor based. And then you're like, well, shit, I gotta like let them have interaction. And then suddenly they have 2 activations, and they're like, yeah, I have interaction and a win. For my
Yeah, exactly.
interaction for my win.
I,
But it's
I
hard
shut
to
down
walk
their
that line.
end-step Born Upon a Win by tutoring to Fairy. What's
Yeah.
the problem?
I'm helping. I'm helping her. Yeah. Yeah, so number 11, I don't know if I feel great about this one, but I was kind of filling out the list. I was like, sure. So I have Terra, 5-color deck of flavor of the month. I think it's able to do food chain stuff. I don't know if the food chain stuff is actually good. I think it might be better as just a 5-color, good stuff deck. And I think 5-color good stuff decks are always going to be okay/good. It's been Najila for some time, and that saw a lot of success. It was the 3-mana legend that turns her stuff into mana dorks. I forget the name of that. Esika. Yeah, Esika. And now it's Terra, and it's just has some, you could call it, I guess, advantage in the zone, like milling a couple cards and getting back, an enchantment, and then it can pivot into the food chain stuff, which is cool. But yeah, I just thought it's actually been putting up a decent amount of results. Like it's winning a couple tournaments, and that's not something that all the decks that we've already talked about yet could really say about them. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything really special about the deck other than the things I just said, but yeah, that's my number 11.
I mean, I think it just provides it a level of consistency for something busted, because all
Yeah.
of its busted things are enchantments, right? Like Breach, Rhystic, Mystic, Smothering Tide, Necropotence, Necrodominance, Food Chain are all enchantments.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's the best of the 5-color Nas decks right now.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And that can only be so bad.
And do they run? Maybe I'm thinking of Wandering Minstrel, but has there been a Terra Loris build, or is they doing Loris Wandering Minstrel?
They can't do Loris Terra because Terra is 3 CMC.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. The Luris.
I know one of them is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you also lose out on Food Chain, Necro, Rhystic Study, Smothering Tide. Like if you do.
Yeah.
If
Well,
you
that
do
makes sense
Terra
why it's
Loris.
That's why it makes sense it's the Wandering Minstrel that does it.
Mm-hmm. Just like a cheap 5-color legend. Yeah. Sweet.
Jordan,
All right.
what do you have at the double one?
So I have Magda here. I think the Dwarf is still really strong. I like it, and kind of to the point we've been making throughout this video, like it runs a lot of the stacks pieces that are really hard to play through in this meta, like Dampening Sphere, the freaking Godpharaoh statue, which has been in the bane of my existence forever and ever and ever. I think the deck, I think the deck is pretty strong, and it's got some really nice pivot points, and it's got a decent amount of interaction, more than I think you'd necessarily expect out of a mono red deck. Again, my biggest issue with it is because of all the creature decks that have been running around, people have been running more stuff to deal with creatures, and Magda gets hit by literally gets shredded by everything under the sun. It being exactly 1 toughness, it just is so brutal. Mayhem Devil eats it up. Bowmasters chews that deck up. Freaking Culling Ritual eats it alive. Like there's so many. The more and more the creature decks took over, the more and more Magda would struggle to get through that. Also, I've seen a Cursed Totem just completely ruin that deck's day. Just completely. 100%. They're like, I have to top deck the removal for the piece now. And they do run artifact removal, but and maybe it's just because I see a lot of Cursed Totem in my meta, but I've just seen that card eat that deck alive just over and over and over again, where it's like, unless they had it or they top deck into it, they're out of the game. They're not playing anymore.
Your meta should be called the Glinthorn meta. Like that's why people are fucking Cursed Totem.
Well, everyone runs activated creature decks, so the few Tivits and Blue Farm players that can throw in the Cursed Totem, they do it every single freaking time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Magda also, like what you're saying before, Jordan. Like if it eats a board wipe, it's not coming back ever. No card draw.
If it had good treasure production, it can. But like
sure,
yeah.
But it's like really, usually they're using all those.
It doesn't need the dwarves on the battlefield to win. It just needs the Magda and the artifact dwarves. So like it can do the thing efficiently when it has to. But I guess before we talk about this too much, do you have Magda on your list, Zach, somewhere?
No, I probably should have put it where Terra was. I don't know. I hate Magda. I hate
also,
playing against Magda.
I did not rank Magda either this time. It's
Okay.
not in my top 15. So we can actually talk about this in full. Yeah, I think this deck's booty cheeks right now. Like, what do you mean? Like, it's another example of how the fuck they keep getting away with it, bro. Like,
that one
who
I
the
don't
fuck
understand.
Who the fuck doesn't know what Magda does?
There's
no argument. There's no argument of helping. Like, I don't care. If any Magda is like, I can stop him with the Godfarer statue, I don't care. I'm not letting you do that. Like, it's get the fuck out of here. Let Sisay have the Urtai, and I don't care about, like, I'm not letting you have a fucking Portal of Phyrexia and a goddamn Godfarer statue. Like, that's a different situation. Get fucked. No.
I think it just plays well into the mid-range, right? Like, we're all setting up advantage engines, and they're turboing out the dwarves, and if you just don't have the removal for Magda early, it does the thing before you can, because all it takes is usually putting one stack piece on the board, whether it's Stampeding Sphere or Godpharaohs, and if a smart Magda player doesn't just try to send it, and they get out the stacks piece, you're just locked out from playing the game.
Yep.
And that's really hard to deal with.
But we're in a meta with infinite creature removal and board wipes galore.
Yeah.
And Bowmasters and Mayhem Devil being played more than ever. Like,
Yeah.
we're in a terrible place for Magda. There are times where Magda's sick, right? Like, Magda was one of those decks that said, turn 3, I'm going to send it, like, every time, and you have to have the interaction. And if you do not keep a hand that interacts with me by turn 3, you fucking lose. And, like, that was a good time for Magda. And I've ranked Magda high before. We are not at that time right now. Like, we are at a time that people are terrified of creature decks.
Yeah, but even in, like, this current meta, right, where things have gone wrong, it still has excellent stats. Like, surprisingly so, right? Like, you'd think with all the creature interaction going around that Magda would have fallen off so hard that it'd be a deck that you just don't, that you're like, oh, okay, I don't have to worry about Magda ever anymore because everything hits it. Literally everything hits this deck. And yet it's still rocking and rolling, still doing its thing. It's still here. And I mean, even a meta like the Invitational, right? And I know the Invitational meta was super weird with everything that was going on in it. You would think that Magda would be uniquely hard to pilot through that particular meta in particular, right? Like, out of all metas, that one just seemed particularly brutal, at least to me. And I don't know.
In the meta of greedy fuckers who don't play removal?
Well, but people were bringing in Zach, you can attest to this, right? People brought in some pretty decent amount of creature removal because we were expecting a lot of Rogthras and a lot of TNT and a lot of Sisay. And so there actually was a decent amount of creature removal, and there was still both Magdas were still doing, pretty decently well.
Yeah, I played a Magda in my top 16 pod. And top 16 in the Invitational is definitely quite a thing to stand on when, independently of each other, like, a lot of us brought Mayhem Devil just for the creature decks. Like, we didn't talk about that at all. But, like, Logan had it in Wrong's Eye, I had it, Alex Stockwell had it, Jace had it. I think there was a couple more. Kellen obviously had it in his Mardu deck. And not that Mayhem Devil is the end-all, be-all, but it's just the fact that people are dedicating slots in, like a blue farm deck to something to deal with the creature decks. You would think that we would be dealing with Magda easier than we did. And also, I think it's coming out of the time you're talking about, Max, where there's a lot of interaction, and it might be going into a time where it's going to feast, because it does kind of what we talked about with what Zerto was doing, where it has those stacked pieces that it can play really early, or it can win super fast. And if you're facing, like, an Atali, and you just like, I'll just stacks you out real quick, and then I'm just going to do my dwarf thing. And if you don't have a pyrokinesis, you lose. Maybe it is going to keep rising. So I would have expected the numbers to be worse, honestly. So I'm surprised that it was as high as you were saying they were, Jordan.
Yeah. It's higher than, like, Kinnan right now. It's higher than TNT. Honestly. So it's had a rough month, but if you're looking at the quarter, it's had a better quarter.
Yeah.
Look, we rank our list on vibes, and Magda.
Yeah, it's vibes.
Right vibes.
fuck
Magda
Magda.
doesn't give the right vibes.
Hate Magda. Hate Magda.
Hey, I hate being stacked out just as much as anyone. Like I said, the amount of Godpharaoh statues that I have had to deal with because of this deck in particular.
Fucking same.
Yeah. I fucking hate it.
There's not a deck in CDH that when it says it wants to help and interact more, I could not care less. Like,
Same.
If there's a deck that someone's like, if you do this, then I'm out of the game, I say wonderful. Like, please leave me alone. Like,
I think the only other deck I've ever heard someone say, I can help if you let me do this, and I was like, fuck no, it was an Natali player where it's like, hey, I could maybe flip into something of value. And I was like, no, what?
That's funny. That's cute. A little Gruul player.
but like, there's some decks that can do that. Like, I can pull that shit on Turbo Obnixilis because that deck does play like a fuckload of onboard removal. So I can totally be like, tap that City Brass, boy. Fucking boo boo, like give me that shit, and we'll see what if we hit Deadly Rock. Like it's possible. Like,
oh no, a breach.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a Necro. Yeah. Does that bring us to our top 10 after an hour and a half?
It does.
An hour and a half. That's pretty good.
I think the top 10 tends to go faster than the other decks because we get to more like consistency.
We've talked about these things. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like decks people are more aware of rather than some interesting stuff. But this one does not fit that mold. Number 10. I have the new Sith Lord of the CDH community. A deck with no results. A deck with nothing to prove on but vibes. And that deck is Talion the Kindly Lord. I have never felt more confident about a deck in like being in a perfect place in a meta than Talion is right now. And like I'm fucking torn between bringing this or Rogdrass to COOKOUT. Rogdrass is just so busted that I feel like I have to play it, but also like if I play Talion against Rogdrass, it eats Rogdrass alive. Like when I'm talking about being able to play stacks effects that fuck people up, like holy shit, does this play stacks effects that fuck people up? I mean, you get to be on Oppo, you get to be on Counterbalance, Dress Down, fucking Curse Totem, Grafdigger's Cage, Weathered Runestone, Dampening Sphere. You're on several board wipes. You're on so much creature interaction. You're on so much onboard removal for any type of piece. You're on Karn the Great Creator. You're on Narset Parter of Veils. Like, people are so greedy on their onboard interaction and removing non-creatures right now that it is so difficult for decks to win through this deck. This deck puts the game in an absolute fucking chokehold. And it is a great example of a deck that if you do not know how to play it, you will never have success with it in a million years. You have to be a dedicated control pilot. You have to know how to grind control. You have to know to be patient, not care about your own personal development, hold up your interaction, go slow, but still know how to win in time. And that is a very slim line to walk. But if you can walk that line, holy shit, is this deck beyond fucking busted. I am either 7-1 or 8-1 on this deck right now since I rebuilt it. Another guy who decided to pick it up told me he was 4-1 on the weekend with it. Like, this deck is so good specifically right now with what people are doing. It draws so many cards. There is literally not a win condition in the game that it cannot beat, and it is able to stop almost everything. Our worst matchup is just Lumra, because Lumra wins through most of the fucking things, which is really annoying. Like, Lumra does not care about Curse Totem, Weathered Runestone, anything. Lumra is the worst matchup for Talion, which is why the Wandering Minstrel is actually kind of scary for us if they're on Lumra combos. But, like, pretty much anything else, like, Blue Farm can't win through this deck. Sisay can't win through this deck. Magda can't win through this deck. Kennen can't win through this deck. Rogdrass can't win through this deck. You dominate those games. Like, the primary metapods that currently exist in the format, this deck eats. Absolutely fucking eats. And yeah, I've like, there's almost never been a deck I have more confidence in being absolutely excellent at this exact point in time. And I think more people should be playing it. I think that it gets worse if more people are doing it, but like, it's so fucking good right now.
Good pitch.
Yeah.
It's like that was a good movie trailer moment for Talion.
Talion. Do you want to fucking kick ass and take names? Do you want to? Were you denied everything you desired as a child, and you want to do the same to your opponents? Yeah.
Hell yeah. Trust your gut, dude. I don't know.
I'm so tempted. I'm like really fucking tempted. Yeah.
Do it. I think that's hype.
Jordan, do you agree with this pick? Or Zach, do you agree?
My only argument is, over the last 3 months, this deck's conversion rate is 7%, and over the last month, this deck's conversion rate is 0%. That's all I'm going to say about it.
I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit, bro.
Hey, you're all vibes, right?
Bro, it's about the vibes, bro. My first ever big tournament win was on Talion, undefeated, when people said there's no way that shit wins in time. Like, and that was into a very similar turbo leaning meta.
Mm-hmm.
I do think there's room for the deck. Like, if we're being serious, I do think the deck has a place. I just think just like the same thing we talked about Esper, a lot of pilots are really going to struggle to win in time, and I do think that's why we see a drop off so significantly in the amount of pilots who play it, because there's only so many games where you're going to experience that over and over and over again before you just get frustrated, right? That's like why I got off Martius, because there were so many games where I was drawing or it was mostly drawing, right? Unless there were games where I just gave someone the win, but it was mostly I would draw games because I was getting to the end, was dominating the game, I was drawing a shitload of cards, and I couldn't piece together a fucking win. Like, it just didn't happen in time. I did not draw all the cards. Okay, well, I mean, you draw what you draw, right? Like,
no, but it's also there's no other deck that can play this density, because especially when you get into Esper, this is what I love about 2-color decks. Like, if you notice, I'm known for Talion, Omnixilis, Kinnan, Nadu, Rockdrass is a Simic deck. Like I play 2-color decks, and what I love about 2-color is when you get to 3-color is when you hit that density of colors that there's too many staples, and you lose all the cool shit. Yep. You lose all the identity of like consistency of going for a specific strategy, and it's just good cards. Right? That's why I love 2-color decks, because you have to build synergistically. And Talion is so synergistic in what it's trying to accomplish, so consistent in what it's trying to accomplish, and there's no other deck that can play this density of stacks effects, and also 20 counter spells to protect them.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, we'll see how you do when you take it to an event.
To COOKOUT.
I like so wish that there was like a 60 person near me soon. I would absolutely bring this deck.
Yeah. I think Talion, I played Talion for a bit, and I actually really like the deck. The attrition plan was, I thought, just a unique way to play. It's like playing with combat damage, you know? Like, you get to just sit on your stacks pieces and just dare your opponents to cast a spell, you know, into anything. And be like, yeah, you're going to, you know, I have a Shieldred, or I have a Bowmaster, or I have my, you know, I always forget the Blood Chief's Ascension. Like, any spell you cast, you're losing like 6 life. So have fun. And then I also have 20 cards in hand to just stop you at every moment that you could even want to push. So I think leaning into the attrition game is actually really cool, and is a way to kind of make the game end just by damage. I don't know how much of your games are winning with, you know, a Thoracle or through combo means, and how many are winning.
Barely. Hullbreaker Horror is primary win con.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Do you win through attrition ever, where people are just like dying to life loss based things? Okay.
Yeah,
like wheeling
I won
or
one game. I had one game where I had cloned Smothering Tithe, Fairy Mastermind, Shieldred, Bowmasters.
Nice. That's fun.
It was just, fuck you. like,
you're dead. Yeah. Yeah, I have no data right now on how it looks. I have been wanting Stacks to come back, and I know Stacks is historically bad and people don't like playing against it, but if I'm winning games, I don't really care if you don't like it. Like, you know, I'm winning. One, I don't have this on my list, but I was looking at like Balin, the Haymaker, the tokens dude, and I think that has a really cool way to draw cards, make mana, and have egregious stacks effects in it. So anyway, I like what you're doing with Talion.
If you go back to Jordan's old channel, Idiot Brewing Company, my first ever guest appearance there was brewing and playing Balin the Haymaker.
Nice. That's sick. Yeah. Okay, cool. I will jump to my number 10. I believe I'm on 10. And my number 10 is one of the decks that I'm the most afraid to sit across from, and that is Ral Monsoon Mage. I'm pretty good buddies with Holden Pryor, who, I don't know if he created the deck, but he's the one who I think popularized it quite a bit. And you know, he's the head of the Ral server. If you're interested in the deck, I would go check him out. He has a whole YouTube channel pretty much dedicated to this deck. And the deck should not be as good as it is, but it is so fucking strong. Like, it just goes and goes and goes and goes, and it goes at such a speed. It's usually a turn 2 deck, but it can go to turn 3 with a lot of protection. I have a lot of really good Ral players in my meta as well, and I just keep seeing it do well. Like, I saw, I played at the, like, before the Invitational, there was like a practice tournament, and the Ral just wrecked that whole thing. I don't think they ended up winning the whole thing, but throughout it, they were just dominating. The deck is able to capitalize through pieces of interaction. So if it is going on turn 2, you could have a Force of Will, but if you're not stopping their rituals, like their early Ral count of the 1s, 2s, and 3s, once they get to like the 4, 5s, and 6s, they just go on top of you. And also the spells they're casting don't matter at all. They just want to flip the Ral. So it's like counter the Ral, counter the rituals, and then they still might get there. Or they're going to wheel you. It's like the deck has so much that it can do, and it's really good at dodging the interaction that people have. It obviously has downsides, but I do genuinely fear playing against Ral, especially because I know that I alone generally cannot be the one to stop it. It requires other people in my pod to also be responsible, and I just don't trust my opponents that much. So, yeah, that's my number 10.
I will talk more about Ral soon.
Sweet.
Same.
Basic idea is I would think the deck is getting worse because more people are aware of what it's doing, but it feels like it's getting better because while everyone's going for turn 3, it's going for turn 2.
Yep.
When you really think about it, CEDH is built on 2 primary axes of resource, and that is mana and cards. And Ral is a deck that has a commander that is a colorless and a colored pip, and that single thing tends to make more mana per turn than Kinnan does when you really think about it. And its entire deck is built around cards that are card advantage because they're just looting effects that exile off the fucking top and wheels.
Yep. And mana rituals
And mana.
that are discounted by Ral.
It's literally fucking Ruby Storm.
Yep. I think it's so cool. Definitely not how I want to play CDH. I have nothing against the deck, but I just find I don't know. It's really cool. I think it's a really good deck. So I think it could be higher, and I respect your guys' placing it of higher. But I think it definitely deserves a top 10 spot.
So I'll talk more about mine. But for number 10, I have the Wandering Minstrel.
Nice.
So this is the 5-color turbo deck I decided to put here. I like the Wandering Minstrel because a little bit better than some of the other 5-color decks because it does play on like a really unique axis with having access to the Lumra landfall stuff. I think that's just a really cool line. Like having an Amulet of Vigor in the command zone, really, really powerful. What I also like about the Wandering Minstrel is how cheap it is. So like it's very easy to get it online really quickly. So then you can run a little bit more of like the Fierce and the Deflecting Swat. And since it's 5-color, you have access to all the interesting interaction and it can hold it up there. I just like the deck. I like the Loris builds with it. I like the Landfall build with it. One of the kind of unique things about 5-color decks is generally there's only one way to build them, right? Like it's a turbo, like these Turbo Adnaz 5-color decks are usually it's like, this is how you do it, right? Jensen
Same
Loris
shit.
the Loris Ezio decks that were running around there. Like Sisei and Najila, I don't really count as like 5-color good stuff decks because they usually have like different axes that you're playing on. So like the 5-color generally just good stuff decks. They're almost always in on the Turbo Naz stuff, and that's all they're doing. And I like that the Wandering Minstrel can kind of pivot between some of these different lines and do some different stuff. And I've seen some really unique Wandering Minstrel builds, so I just like the deck. I think it's really cool. And I kind of like something you touched on, Max, is you never really know what kind of deck you're sitting across from when you sit down against the Wandering Minstrel, like which way they're going to attack you. And I think that's a really powerful advantage that the deck has. Also, I've seen some decks that are just running some really cheeky lands that you wouldn't expect because they can. Like lands that you would never play because they enter tapped, but they're still powerful. And I've seen some. Yeah. And I think that's really cool. Like that's just a really cool strategy that I don't think initially people were really planning around, but I've seen those builds starting to become a little bit more popular. I don't know. Like I always think 5-color decks are really scary because they have access to all the best cards in the game, but usually they have like a really big weakness to them, right? If you're doing the Loris builds, usually you're leaving off some really strong cards, or your commander is like completely just, it's not like it doesn't really exist to do anything. It's just kind of there in the backdrop. Like even like some of those old like Food Chain Sliver decks, right? Like Sliver was just there to win the game. It didn't really have much utility, and you wouldn't really play it until you were winning. And I like that the Wandering Minstrel does a little bit of everything. It's advantage. It's got a really cool effect coming out of the command zone, and then it enables all your early stuff, and then it helps enable your wins. So, really cool deck. I like it a lot.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think I think it's going to be better than Lumra, to be honest. Like, I think as a lands deck, it's lower to the ground. It has access to more colors. It has, better card draw. It has interaction. It's able to win agnostic of Lumra. Like, you can just do stuff with Minstrel plus, gonna totally just forget
Aftermath
the name of the
Analyst.
card. Aftermath Analyst, yeah, and some lands, and you're there. So, I think that it's not as figured out as it could be, and I also am afraid of when people really do start locking in, and when we have more 60 card players who are, like I said, amulet players, or legacy players who really know their land stuff, and they come in and just break lands in CDH, just like Sam Black did with Rogthras. So
Yeah.
No, I think this.
There you got it.
I was gonna say, I think this is the deck that I see a lot of 60 card players like excited about when I see like stuff online. They're like, "Oh, I can play that in CEDH."
yeah.
I'm like, "Oh shit! No. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane."
I welcome you to come to our format where you have to actually speak to your opponents.
True. Reading social cues.
Can't just scowl at them.
Deodorant required. Wandering Minstrel, it is, I think on average, when you're talking about the lands builds, slightly slower than Lumra because it needs a bit more setup to get there.
Yeah.
But it is not locked into a singular plan, which is what we said was the weakness of Lumra, is like it's so strong at doing what it wants to do, but the fact that you're just so locked into that thing, you have nothing else going on. Wandering Minstrel has more going on in total, and I think that just leads to being an overall better deck because a strong pilot can pilot that flexibility, and flexibility tends to be overarchingly more powerful than a singular strength.
Mm-hmm.
At number 9, I have the wizard who became good. I have Vivi Ornithia, aka if you're on Turbo Vivi, it's Shitty Ral. Stop.
True. True.
If you're on mid-range Vivi, it's pretty fucking good. It's really, really cool. I like that it's a combination of burn and interaction and pretty efficient win conditions and storming that outvalues. And you have an awesome mana engine in the command zone, and you have lots of things you can do to generate card advantage with that deck, and you have a lot of consistency for doing what you want to do. The games I've won with Vivi, it's like really I like tandem lookout with 1 mana up and I get there. It's very, very powerful. It's a deck I've gained a ton of respect for, and the life loss can really not be understated. I mean, I've known for a long time how that can affect CDH just because I've played Talion and Omnixilus, and I've seen what those pingings can really do to people. But I think Vivi is such an efficient way of doing it. Having that in the command zone, having that so repeatable, being an outlet for stuff like Hullbreaker is just awesome. And having natty kills. I'm a huge fan of decks that are able to win the game without ever putting like a real win on the stack, and I think Vivi does that phenomenally, where it just does like the natty storm shenanigans, and I think that's an awesome place to be, and it's a deck I have a ton of respect for, and I will totally clone your commander the second I play you.
I wish I had respect for Vivi. I don't think I've played against a lot of good Vivi pilots. There's a couple that I've played against that I think are good, but I haven't seen it enough to respect the deck, and I also think like single Axie decks, like, very commander centric decks, are pretty easy to deal with generally. Cause it's like, it's like just kill it. And it's just like, not that it's linear because it's storming and it can win through other means, but it's really like, if Vivi is not out there, you're not doing a lot. And the fact that it kind of needs to operate at sorcery speed means you can see it coming most of the time.
Oh, the mana from
the mana ability.
It can still, the mid-range version can definitely still flash speed very, very well.
For sure.
I think the thing that lets Vivi survive a little bit more is the fact that it's in blue and red, so it protects itself pretty well from a lot of removal in CDH.
Sure.
Just like having the SWATs and the Pyros and all the blue actual counter spells is really good. But then naturally, we were talking about Maggun stuff having like 1 toughness. Vivi starts at 3 and
fat.
very quickly gets above that, right? So like the second someone tries to bow master you, you cast a spell and suddenly it doesn't die, and like it's pretty easy to keep your Vivi on the battlefield unless they have the very specific removal that you can't stop. And I think that's why it's been doing a little bit better, is it's slightly harder to get rid of than people expect.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know that I agree with that, right? Because it eats a lot, right? So if it gets bounced, it's really devastating for Vivi because it loses access to a lot of its mana right away. It also eats Pyro REB, which is really brutal because you just see those cards a lot. I kind of agree with Zach where like and there's a reason I ranked Vivi a little bit lower on mine because while I like the deck, I do agree that it gets very much all in on Vivi. If Vivi gets removed a bunch or bounced a bunch, you're just kind of dead in the water, and you're just kind of trying to get back to it.
Yeah.
Or like I've seen a lot of like, oh, I'll play Curiosity on Vivi. Vivi gets bounced, so it's like a double whammy because now you lose your Curiosity effect in a deck that struggles to get cards back out of the graveyard outside of Breach, and on top of that, your Vivi got bounced, so now your mana production took a pretty major hit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it's a deck that I think when people learn to deal with it is not that difficult, but I think, once again, the combination of really good mana production, pretty decent speed, and the ability to also win and overcome late is strong.
Yeah. I just personally haven't seen it enough, so I don't respect it because of my bias there.
I mean,
and I think it's kind of a consistent theme that we've talked about a lot, right? Like, people just aren't running a lot of creature interaction.
Yep.
As we've kind of switched away from like I was saying, like Malcolm Vile struggled because of that creature interaction was really heavy over the last like quarter. But if you really just narrow it down over the last 2 weeks to like month, the interaction seems to be lacking everywhere
in all departments.
Yeah.
Not in
like
Italian.
Well, I was gonna say it's really a tale of 2 quarters, right? Like those first 2 months were super interaction heavy for like creature decks. Like everyone was all in on we're just gonna kill stuff. Now it seems like we're like, fuck interaction. We just want to go faster.
Yeah. We just want to play casual EDH.
Like, seriously,
literally,
dude, it's crazy.
Literally, that's what semi-blue and Natali feels like. It's like, I just want to play casual deck, honestly.
I can't believe how many semi-blue decks I've seen online.
I can't either.
Lately.
We've reached the point in the format that you shuffle up and mulligan, and then everyone reveals their hands, and you point at the winner. Like, it's not difficult.
Unless you're playing Talion.
There's one deck that will save us all. Oh, I didn't even mention Frozen Ether, the most based card to ever hit the format.
Oh my god.
That's fun. Okay, so for number 9, I have Atali Primal Conqueror. Yeah, I think we've said a decent amount about it, but it's just capitalizing on the greed. It's going really fast. It's able to present turn 2 as a standard, which means that turn 1 happens sometimes, and that's just fucking hard to interact with, especially when your win condition is a creature. So, yeah, and just being able to flicker it and cast a bunch of spells. It's like, in my opinion, the OG semi-blue deck. And it's been around for a long time, and it's just been doing what semi-blue does, which is not really give a flying fuck about what anyone else is doing and just slamming a dino as quickly as possible. So, yeah, I think it's got a place in the meta, like you mentioned, Max, and I do believe that it will be here because it's a really fun deck to play. Like, I just enjoy playing it myself whenever I get to pick it up, and Alex Stockwell, one of my buddies, it's like his B deck. Like, he plays Blue Farm and then he goes Brain Off with Atali. And for some reason, I don't know why, he just cannot do well with the deck. I'm just like, it's just luck too. It's like just RNG. Like, he's just getting screwed over by, not having the special kind of luck that others have. So anyway, that's my number 9.
And I will say, like, as we get into a meta that people are greedier and play less interaction and more win conditions and productivity, it does actually just make Atali better because
totally
just getting those cards.
Totally. And it's going quicker.
So my number 9, this is where I have Rao. Nice. And yeah, like you kind of talked about, I like Rao a lot. I think it's probably the fastest deck in the format right now. I think just on average, from what I've seen, I'd put it above Roxai still and Natali, which I think are probably 2 of the other faster ones. And I've been cooked, I think, by this deck pretty decently. Like, we have a local, he's not super local. He's in South Carolina, but a guy named Hayward who just destroyed me at the event max where I took Rock Thrust. That was my round 1 loss and my only loss until the top 16. But and it's just one of those decks where I feel like the pot has to mulligan responsibly. And I think all 3 players have to mulligan responsibly, right? Like, if you're especially when it's in like a seat 1 or 2 position, everyone just has to be really careful with how they're mulliganing. And I feel like every time I play against this deck, I don't know what it is, but one person always deviates from the pregame discussion of, hey, we need to mull for interaction. And some greedy fuck is always like, hey, well, y'all mull for interaction, I'm not doing shit. And then I'll look at them when I've used my piece of interaction. And
that
the other
greedy fuck is you.
No, not against Ral. Normally, yes, but not against Ral. But it's just like one of those times where it feels like every time I play against this deck, one of two things happens, right? Either it wins very quickly, or it throws the game into a whacked out board state because it had to feed a Ristic Study or an early fish, and then no one else can really push because now we all have to deal with whatever deck got fed the fuck out of.
Yep.
And those are the only two game states that I've ever seen this deck create. I don't think I've ever actually beaten a Rao player. It's either been a draw or just a straight loss. And again, I don't know if that's just because it's just the way these games have played out, or if it's a little bit of like, hey, you know, people just been kind of greedy. Like I had one is a good example in Virginia where it was two Esper decks. It was a Marnius and a Tivit and me. And I'm in seat 3. So I'm like, sick. This is the perfect anti-Ral pod. Even though Ral's in seat 1, this is the perfect anti-Ral pod. Well, those greedy bastards didn't keep any interaction. Tivit and Marnius, mind you, did not keep any interaction. And I'm sitting there on TNT with my one little piece of like my force or my Fierce Guardianship, which I do very quickly get online. Like I turned one Thrasios into my Fierce, and I felt super proud of myself. I was like, yeah, I wasn't the greedy asshat. And then Ral was like, cool, turn 2 Breach. And then I was like, sick, Fierce. And he's like, sick, my Fierce. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Thanks, Esper.
and then on top of that, he didn't even win because the greedy play from Tivit was like a turn 1 or 2 One Ring. So he couldn't even win through the One Ring. So then we literally were just sitting there like, so do we draw now? Because he got fed a ton of cards and we don't have decks from Brain Freeze. So it was like, okay, well, I guess we all just draw now. And so like that's my game with Ral. And I think my biggest also issue with the deck is the fact that Ral gets removed a lot of games and I just see the deck kind of fold.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like I said, that's kind of a common theme that we see out of a lot of the decks that we're talking about, where it's like if the commander just kind of goes down, the rest of the deck kind of struggles a little bit to get going. Ral, I think less so than others because like you were saying, Zach, it's got the mana it usually set up, and it's usually got like stuff like Brainstorm, so it keeps cycling through its deck. But I do think without Ral on the battlefield, the deck just is way, way worse. And so I think if you kill Ral once or especially twice, it just folds. And they're not running a lot of lands, so when they do run out of their mana, they can't really keep anything sustained.
They are on so few lands. They are
The
on,
fewest
they're
of
on
any
like
deck.
19 or 20 lands.
Dude, I've seen some
So
14 land
crazy.
Ral decks. 14
No, yeah.
lands? Like,
Fuck.
what?
Yeah. Yeah, like you 19 or 20 would be generous for most Ral decks that I'm seeing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I respect it too. I think it's like you're committing to the bit. There's not there's no plan B. Wheeling is your plan B, actually.
Brings us to my number 8, which is Rao Monsoon Maid.
We're so in
which
sync,
we
guys.
We're very in sync. This has been a phenomenal line of transitions, which means we don't have that much to talk about here. Rao's really powerful. It's winning on turn 2 a lot. That's really strong right now. Not much else to say about it. Don't be greedy. If you're greedy, you're a bitch and you just lost. That's the basic of Rao. I don't know how it keeps getting away with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those. If you know what you're up against and you know what to do against it, this deck should never win a game.
If all three
That's
players.
If
No.
all three players are
Yeah.
know what the fuck's going on, this deck
Yeah.
should never win a game ever. But all three players, they see a Ristic Study in their hand and they say, "This will save me." And
This
then,
will
and
help.
then it does not save them.
You draw
yeah,
like
bro.
5 gas cards and then lose.
You're like,
It's
oh,
also
I didn't draw
like,
a Force of Will.
It's so good at politicking a wheel. Too,
Yes,
'cause it's like,
true.
I fed this person so many cards. We need this Time Twister. We need
Yeah.
this Echo Beyond.
I didn't even
And,
talk about that.
Sometimes it's not wrong. Like sometimes it's
yeah.
totally right? It's like you did just feed it 19 cards and they can't stop it. So like, like I do kind of need you to wheel, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, and then we'll see what happens after that. And what happens
Yeah.
is you lose still.
Yeah.
You still lose.
They're super
It
non-committal.
sucks.
Yeah, they're
They
non-committal
put
with the
you
wheels.
between they will never agree to not win after that.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't know what cards it's going to be, which is the
Yeah.
correct way to play the deck. 100% is to be non-committal. And they're exceptionally good at also doing the thing where they can push and either win or draw. Because if it's not the person who drew the 19 cards that has the last piece of interaction for them, then they just tell you, the person who can stop them, offer draw.
Yep.
And I hate that play pattern, but it's really good right now. And
It works.
It's keeps the deck consistent. The deck is super strong. It's way better than VV. I have them at 9 and 8 for a reason. Raw is just better. Raw is just stronger. BB is cooler. Raw is stronger. Actually, Raw is pretty cool.
Raw's pretty cool.
Raw's pretty cool. Raw's pretty cool. Raw's really cool. It's a deck that I really wish I got to have a fun time on, but the time I got to play Raw was borrowing Holden Pryo's deck, and he was in the pod on Esper. And the big reason why I say don't lobbycon people's cool decks against that person, because they respect the deck too much and don't let you do anything, and it's not fun.
Yeah.
Why'd you do it, Holden? Why'd you do it? I revealed a hand of a Flusterstorm and a Simian Spirit Guide, and he said, "Fuck you." Yeah, but that's my number 8. What do you got, Zach?
Sweet. My number 8 is Dargo Timna. I really agree with both of you guys. Like, I think this deck is. I've just never seen a non-blue deck since. Like, the other non-blue decks that come to mind as being this dominant at a period were like Tayam, like we mentioned, and Tali, obviously, and then maybe like an Ob Nixilis, or occasionally Jacob will play Kalia and do really, really well. But it's just rare that a deck sees so much dominance by multiple pilots. There was a period, right? I would probably say it was like a 3-month period before the Invitational where the deck was just converting everything. Like, it was winning tournaments, it was top 16ing a lot of tournaments, and then recently it has fallen off just a bit, and it has felt a little slow, especially the way that it was being built before, where it was trying to hang in the mid-range pocket, but able to go quickly and have silence effects. And I just think other decks are able to do that now, and the more decks that are not playing the mid-range game, the worse Dargo Timna will be in its current iteration, unless it starts to adapt and play a little bit more proactive cards. So I respect the deck. I play the deck. Like, I think it's a really, really fun deck to play. I think it's probably a top 3, if not the best Citadel deck in the meta. And that's an insanely broken card that doesn't get to be abused by a lot of decks. So I think that's really cool. And then I also just like having Dargo be the battery, like Kellen talks about a lot, is just really true. And just having access to creature-based combos that win through Ranger Captain of Eos, like, that's crazy. Being able to win primarily at sorcery speed, but once the line goes, it can go into instant speed and be uninteractable with like Deadpool and stuff. So yeah, that's my number 8. I respect the deck, and I do hope it continues to do well, and I hope Kellen keeps brewing with it, because he really did something special.
I think Dargo is wildly unique in what it enables in the format.
100%.
It's something that doesn't have a fair comparison to like any other card.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the combos you get with Dargo, like, it's a Mardu deck that can win without Breach without problem.
Easily.
Like, it does not need Breach. Breach is one of its better combos, but it does not need Breach at all. It's density of win conditions. It's surprisingly interactive. It's surprisingly capable to hang in the mid-range, and it will also be able to kill you pretty much every game on turn 3.
Yep. What about you, Jordan?
Like I said, I think there's a reason I ranked it in my top 15. I still think it's a top 15 deck. I think that this probably, like you were saying, it probably just needs a little adaptation based on where, like, just a little slow right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I have every ounce of faith that Kellen will figure out that deck. He's too talented of a pilot.
He's brilliant. Yeah, and it's awesome.
Kellen's awesome.
Too. He's so cool. Yeah.
Awesome. So for my number 8, I have, this will probably be pretty controversial based on where I've seen other people rank this deck, but I have Kefka here. I like the deck a lot. I think it's really, really unique in the way it attacks the meta. It's probably the very first deck I've ever seen in CEDH that can actually attack people's hands, which I think is super, super cool, because that's not something traditionally CEDH decks are capable of doing. So I like the deck. Plus, like you said, it's Grixis, and how bad can a Grixis deck ever truly be? The only downsides I have of the deck, one is that it being 5 mana in Grixis Shell, I think sometimes can be a little tricky. Like, the deck, I think sometimes suffers a little bit from the identity of, like, I've got all the Grixis tools to go quickly, but I don't have the same commander. Like the commander's not necessarily doing the same thing. So even like Malcolm Vile, the deck is ramping mana into like trying to push an early win. And like Roxai, of course, the commander enables all the fast mana to get into the early win. And I'm not sure, Kefka obviously operates on a very different axis where it's not, it can, because it's still Grixis to push that early win, but your commander isn't really enabling that. Mm-hmm. It's really just like, hey, we're kind of more of the mid-range Grixis shell that's going to like put out the Displacer Kitten and create a lot of value that way. And I think the deck is still kind of going through that like growing pains of trying to figure out what works in the deck, what doesn't. Like how many Kefka cards do I lean into? How much good Grixis stuff do I lean into? But I think the deck is really cool. I think those are just like a couple of the issues I have with it. But what I also like too is that it plays a lot of the really unique stacks pieces because it doesn't really need to worry about them. Like it can play, like you're talking about, like Curse Totem. I've seen some of them on some really unique stuff. Like, what was Malik on? I'm trying to remember. He was on one of the other 2-drop artifacts that caught me off guard. Like maybe it was Weathered Runestone or something. But or Grafdigger's Cage. Maybe it was Grafdigger's. I don't really remember, but he was running some really unique pieces in his that I thought were really unique. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it couldn't have been those. I have to remember. I have to go back and look because now I'm thinking about it. Those wouldn't work with Breach.
That stopped Breach. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it couldn't have been those. We'll cut that.
Curse Totem would make sense, right?
Curse Totem, absolutely.
There was definitely Curse Totem.
Okay.
I just felt like there was another stacks piece, but there was also an Urza player that was running Urza stacks, so I might be mixing up what the Urza stacks player was running and what Malik was running in his Kefka. But I like I said, I think the deck is solid. I think it's proven that it's very strong. And I like it a lot. I think it's cool. And I think it's flip side. You almost never even see the flip side of it. But when it does flip, it's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Well, the flip side is actually how they win with Hullbreaker Horror.
Yeah.
Because it makes your opponent sack all of their permanents.
I just haven't seen it. I just haven't seen it need to win with Hullbreaker Horror. It's kind of like, what was it, the old Tevish Thrassless with some, or not Tevish Thras. I guess Tevish Thras would, but yeah, Tevish Crom, like they do the Hullbreaker Horror stuff. But it kind of feels like the same way where Breach is just kind of coming first all the time because it's more efficient.
100%.
Yeah.
Our transition game is just so strong. At number 7, I have Kefka Court Mage. So I'll just, before we talk about it more,
weird how this is lining up.
Reveal that this has been phenomenal. This has been one of the better transitions we ever had. Just repeatedly. Which exactly, I love that you brought it up because my first sentence was going to be, "This is 2025 Tevish Crom." Like that is what it is.
That is actually a perfect example.
Please put a meme on the screen that is, "Mom, do we have Kefka?" And you say, "We have Kefka at home," and it shows Tevish Crom. Like I want that meme on the screen right now. Please make that because that's all this is, right? Like it's just updated Tevish Crom. It's better card advantage. It's better disruption. Yes, it's one more pip out of your 5-mana commanders, but the whole thing is you were Grixis with 5-mana commanders that had card advantage, and that's what Kefka is. It's card advantage, and the best way to build Kefka is just you are Turbo Grixis. Like you are just a Turbo Ass Grixis deck that happens to play Hullbreaker Horror, Displacer Kitten, Harmonic Prodigy. Like that's the 3 cards. That's really it. Outside of that, it's normal fucking Grixis shell. And deck's goated. Like, it's super good. The disruption cannot be understated. If you are able to slam Kefka early and start that disruption before people get down their card advantage engines, you win that game. And it lets you win the attrition game through the mid-range really successfully while still having turbo win conditions. If you get locked under everyone already having draw engines and your Kefka triggers aren't disrupting them at all, that's a really tough spot to be. Deck's really strong, though. Ton of respect for it. I've heard phenomenal things from a very high number of pilots about how good this deck is. Have played it a little bit. I've seen it feel good and feel good bad. Like, it's a deck that I'm putting at 7 for a reason. It's super strong. And I'd love to see where they finalize it, but my opinion is just Turbo Grixis with like 3-4 pieces.
Oh yeah. I'll get to Kefka very soon. Not quite at 7. I'm probably going to make some people in this call mad with my number 7, but I have Kinnan, Bonder Prodigy here at number 7. Yeah. And to be completely frank, I would have ranked it lower had it not been right now than we were recording this, because I think for the past few months it has just not seen almost any results aside from Waffle. Part of that is not having you play the deck, Max. Like that's a huge loss for Kinnan, and it's because it is like everyone has said, a hard deck to it's like low floor high ceiling. The good pilots are going to actually be able to convert with it. Bad pilots are going to convert in Swiss.
I just want to say, Ian just won a Time Twister on it like a week ago.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Okay, well there you go. Yeah. Number 7. Yeah, and also shout out to Hire for continuing to be fucking just like such a cool brewer, and like, doing super well in the Crit EDH league on his big flips deck with very low interaction outside of the creatures that he's running.
Which I said was one of my favorite LobbyCon decks a couple episodes ago,
Oh,
and here we
so
are.
cool. Yeah, yeah.
Now it's just digging out shit.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Kinnan could definitely be coming back. I think the big flips variant is probably a great way to capitalize on. I kind of hate just calling it the semi-blue meta, but I don't really know what else to call it. It's like low interaction, creature-focused decks that are going to go fast on turns 2 and 3. And Kinnan can do that, I'd say, better than any deck that I've ever seen. And that's while still playing interaction, it can do that. It can also face really well into stacks. Like, it doesn't have a big problem against stacks. It can operate on the stack really well if you're building it with, more interaction and more card draw, or it can just do the big flips thing. And we're seeing that, people like Ian, like you, like Hire, and Waffle can make the deck sing and just play phenomenally. And like, I'm terrified of playing Waffle when he's on Kinnan. And say it's pretty much any good pilot, I think the deck is really, really strong. I hope that it rises in the ranks and becomes a better deck for the meta. I think it will be. But yeah, for now I have it at 7.
Yeah, I think Kinnan has hit a place where the combination of Waffle's list, my list, Ian's new Abomination Kinnan Turbo variant, and Hire's semi-blue big flip style, like parasitic, just big shit. You've hit that point where it's like, what Kinnan am I against when I see it on the map? Like,
yeah.
You don't know which one, and I think that's actually a strength for it. Like, all of them are really powerful, and all of them absolutely eat through stacks matchups. My God, that is a terrible, terrible one. Like, the way I've thought about Kinnan for a long time, obviously I've played literally thousands of games on this deck. You beat any singular stacks effect so easy because you have ways around all of them. But when you get to a density of stacks effects, it gets very difficult very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. Hire mentioned, he's like, I would not want to play against Talion if I was playing Kinnan.
Oh, he specifically said if he sees me in a tournament and he thinks there's a shred of a chance I'm playing that Talion deck, he's not bringing that Kinnan to us.
Yeah, he mentioned that on the car ride a few days ago. We went up to Birdcage and he was like, yeah, I would not want to play against Max on Talion. Yeah. Anyway, what about you, Jordan? What's your number 7?
So at 7, I have Sisse here.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it enough to where I don't need to go too much in depth with it, but I've always respected the deck. It seems to always do better than you ever think it will, and it does the thing. You can't say enough about. You can't really. It's hard to knock it down more when its stats are so excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, especially
I'll
good
give it
Sisse
number 7
pilots.
if it's. Yeah, I'll give it number 7 if it's Jeremy Davis. That's how I get out of here.
I would. Jeremy's so scary to play against.
He's so good, dude. Oh my God. If you haven't met Jeremy Davis, he's one of the best people you'll ever meet in this community. He is such a fucking treasure. Holy shit.
Is.
What a guy. He's my Jer Bear. I love him so much. Yeah, we've talked. This is what I mean. It goes faster when we've already talked about the decks a bunch.
Yeah, true.
At number 6, I have a new one for you guys. We haven't talked about this deck yet. Hey, Jordan, fuck you. Tim Thrasios. Number 6. Deck's good. We're talking top 6 decks in CDH here. That's so much respect compared to how other people have ranked this deck.
You're not wrong.
It is the master of it is Mario. If you look at Mario Kart and you look at Mario and his stats are just like, or any fucking game, Mario's stats are just like good across the board, but they're never the best at anything, right? Like that's Mario, and that's Timna Thrasios. You have a nice stable floor, you're a Timna deck. You have a nice stable floor, you're a Thrasios deck. You have good win conditions. You have some solid interaction. You have silence effects. You have 4 colors of good stuff, and you can build around some interesting strategies. But does the deck do anything that it's trying to do better than any other deck? Absolutely not. It is not the best at any single thing it is doing. It is just solid. It's just a solid deck, and it's a deck that can win tournaments. It's a deck that can do cool things. There is obviously some variation in builds now, which is cool. Jordan's been pioneering Tree Farm, That's been really sick to see. I think Tree Farm is just bad rock grass, but like it's still good, right? Just because it's not as good as rock grass doesn't mean it's like bad. It's still doing the thing well. I hate the deck's mulligans. My God, do I hate mulliganing this deck? Like it is the most miserable. I can't keep any hand because the mana's wrong of anything I've ever experienced. But when it comes together and it is allowed to do, it also hits a weird place of like the deck can legitimately win on turn 3, like a lot of the time, and chooses not to. So like it can win quickly. Like it is something that. It does really well in that graph I was talking about of its strength is throughout the game. Like it is a deck that is really good early and late. It's very, very powerful late, especially when it gets all its engines churning. I think it's a little slow to get some of the engines churning, and that's where people can just get under it really effectively. But if it gets to the position that it is churning, it keeps up with the best decks in the format. It can take down the best decks in the format. It is one of the best decks in the format in that late game. Super, super powerful. Ton of respect for the deck. Everyone loves Mario. People respect Mario.
Hell yeah.
Love you, Jordan.
Do you have any rebuttal, Jordan, or anything you wanted to mention about it?
I mean, I have.
He'll talk about it in like 3 numbers, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll also be talking.
Just wait till I get the shit on rock grass.
Yeah, that's great. I can't wait. The deck that you've done phenomenal with on average, yeah.
No, I reject this.
All right, my number 6 is Kefka. And to be honest, this is not a vibe Kefka. This is a results Kefka. It's how many players have picked it up and done well with it. Again, I'm like pretty confident. If anyone's beat me on Kefka, please comment, say so in the comments. I don't think I've lost to a Kefka, and I've never. I would not say I'm scared playing against Kefka, and it feels kind of like annoying, if anything. Like the stripping never gets out. It's never gotten out of control for me. It's never felt like, oh my God, my resources are being seized every turn. And
if the built around card advantage, sure.
Yeah, yeah, facts. Well, I play other decks too. Okay, Blue Farms. It was my villain arc, but yeah. I just, if the best Kefka is turbo, and Kefka is the worst turbo deck, it's like, as I'm not gonna say. Maybe we can cut this out, but as Jay-Z said, it's like being the tallest midget. It's not gonna be.
That's absolutely staying in, bro. That's the opener.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it. Jay-Z said it. It's not politically correct. Like I said, if the best Kefka is turbo and Kefka is like, I would say kind of a pretty mid turbo deck. Like I would honestly put Malcolm Vile Smasher as a better turbo deck than Kefka, just because you have mana and you have cheaper commanders and you have actual win conditions with your commanders. And so I kind of think Kefka is just the shiny toy. I would love to be proved wrong. I would love for more Kefka to pop up. I'll probably play it at some point. I've never tried it yet, so neither have I seen a lot of strong Kefka played against me, nor have I tested it, but I do respect where it is right now in the meta, and I respect its conversion rate. The one thing I did want to mention is when you were talking about Talion, I was like, what if Talion was Grixis? And I was like, well, Kefka is actually not a bad Grixis control option.
But then you have to play Breach and things. And
yeah.
then
Well, do you?
Just becomes bad. You could try not to, but then you're also talking about like one of the powers of Talion is so consistently turn 2 Talion is your base floor.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to do in Kefka without more things that do that.
That's fair.
Color, which
that's
like
fair.
Going land, Soul Ring, turn 2 Talion into like turn 3 stacks and whatever is a lot of the play pattern.
Yeah, yeah. And also having so much interaction that you can just hold up with Talion on the board, I'm sure.
And the life loss is crazy.
Right. So yeah, maybe it's not, but I'm thinking of like a Kefka that is running, like it's Dimir with splashed red, and you get to run things like Mayhem Devil and obviously all the really busted red cards. And I'm sure it's been done. I have not kept up on my Kefka as much as I should have. But yeah, that's my number 6, I think. Yeah, number 6.
Kefka sounds like a Yiddish word that a grandma would say.
Facts. Yeah. My little Kefka.
Enough of your fucking Kefka. Like it's
that's funny.
My number 6 is Atali.
Nice.
Yeah, like I said, we've talked, I think, enough about this card, but my only reason I can't rank this Dino higher is just consistency. Some games it'll hit everything, and some games it'll whiff like a mother. And that's honestly the only downside I see to Atali. Because if it was more consistent, so that's the crazy part, right? Even with all the RNG involved with this deck, it still wins so consistently. And so if it was literally just if it had something, and I don't know if there's anything that can ever be printed, but if it just had something else that just dialed that consistency up just one more notch, I think the deck would be beyond broken. And because it's already so good at what it does. I mean, you don't take down a 500 person event on a fluke, right?
Facts.
Like that's at a certain point, Atali's proven time and time again that hilariously enough, even without Jeweled Lotus and Dockside, that it's just still a goated deck, and getting 3 free cards every time your commander hits the board is still really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I've had 4 turn 1 wins in my life. 2 of them are Tali.
Yeah. Right? Like sometimes you hit everything, and sometimes the saddest part is, right, there's the games where I've seen it hit everything are amazing, but then I've also seen plenty of games where it goes, here's my turn 1 Atali into 2 dorks and a nothing, right?
Yep.
And a counterspell. And then you're like, well, shit. And now Atali sits there. And that's like, that is my only issue with the deck, is that I knew that if I were to ever take this to an event, that would be every single fucking Atali hit that I have the entire day. And I'd be so frustrated.
That's
like,
what happens to Alex.
People, yeah, like people are winning on turn 1 all the time. And I'm sitting here like, counterspell dork, and I'm like, great, fucking great.
God, Zach, you know Alex's face better than I do. I can imagine his exact face when he receives that flip every time, and that like elongated side look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a long.
Is that about right? He's a very long face. Yeah, he's a yoked, lanky rock climber.
He
is what Alex Stockwell is.
Yeah,
and yeah, I can imagine his Atali face just being like. And it like extends.
Yeah. He, yeah. But I totally agree with you, Jordan. I think like the fact, like in my semis game, we had a Julian, the only Atali player to top 16. I think the only Atali player in the invite had a turn 2 Atali, and he hit Pact, Fierce, Dwarf, Glimpse the Impossible, and then I'm just looking at my turn 3 win like. Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, that's a Tali, right?
Yeah,
like
that's Tali.
That's what the deck do.
Yep.
Always let you down right at the moment you don't want it to.
Facts.
Yeah. And we've reached our top 5. Quick round of applause for the decks that
Let's
made it all
go.
the way
2
here.
hours in, baby. 1/3 the way there.
2 hours in. We're
2/3.
We're so good. We're so good. My number 5, I have Rogsai. Finally, we've reached a little kobold boy, and I love Rograk now. I used to hate him so much. Now he's friend. But Rogsai is not friend. Rogsai is not friend. When he's paired with Silas, he is not friendly at all. And I mean, shout out to Dexter. Dexter's been fucking cooking people on this list. And like when I think about Rogsai pilots right now, and I'm thinking about the rest of Rogsai pilot, we're in a meta and a CDH existence where the old guard that used to play Rogsai is with us no more. Cheers. And now Dexter is the name I think of as the best Rogsai pilot.
Same.
And Dexter's been killing it. He's on full turbo Rogsai. Anyone who's tried to slow that deck down is cope beyond belief. That deck is made to do one thing, and it is win as quickly as possible. And that deck's not flexible. It's not a deck I'm afraid of in the mid-range in the slightest. Sure, it can get down to Ristic, and sometimes it can do the thing, and sometimes you'll get got, whatever. But realistically, if you know what the fuck you're doing, you're not losing to Rogsai in the mid-game. That's just a reality. And it is a deck that is a great example of my strength is the only thing I've worked on. I have only biceps and all I do is curls. And I do that thing so fucking well. Baby.
Yeah.
And what that thing is Necro Potence. I have Necro all the time because there's not a deck that Necro's better in the format.
Yep.
Like it converts Necro so consistently, efficiently. If you get Necroed, you are dead. If you get Necroed, you have exactly the turn before they go off to win the game or try anything. Anything else you do is irrelevant. Nothing you do matters to them. If it's not winning, they don't care. Unless you play stacks, then it might matter. But people aren't playing stacks right now, so it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like, if people did play stacks, it might matter. But they fucking don't. Unless you're Italian. Italian doesn't lose to this. But deck is so strong. It is a deck that I'm afraid of on a Mulda 3 consistently. I don't give a shit what they mulligan to, because their mulligan plan is the mana and the payoff, and that's all it is. And they don't care how low they have to go, because all of their payoffs
draw them their deck, not necessarily their whole deck, but enough of their deck that they win the game every time, and it's built to win on that every single time, and it will not fizzle. Yep. If you are preying on Rogside to fizzle, you're already dead. Mm-hmm. That's the reality. It is the best at doing that thing, and there will never be a Grixis deck better at doing that thing, because the inherent power of the Grixis Shard, I think is when it's 3 colors, the inherent power of the Grixis Shard is speed and efficient win conditions and the ability to protect them. And there is no better thing in the format than having a free commander to protect it, to enable it, to speed it up. It's the best deck at doing that, and it is the best turbo deck in the format.
Yeah. No notes. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I would say is I think Rogsai did lose a lot of the best players on it. And then it also saw a lot of really good players switch to Blue Farm. So it lost a ton of representation, and that's tough. And I think if more people played Rogsai, it would be absolutely fucking dominating. And I think it would have dominated through the bans too. I really don't think the bans hurt it almost at all. I just think all the people that were playing it left the deck, and so the follower effect ensued, and people thought, oh, it's worse now. And it's like, no, it was never worse. It just didn't get played as much.
I think its biggest weakness, and it's been coming full circle because people have seen it so much less, but we talked about how Rao people are consistently not responsible in their mulligans.
Yeah.
Rogsai has been doing its shtick for so long that I think it is the only deck that people are consistently responsible for.
Yeah.
I think that is its biggest weakness. It is the waving flag of stop me, and it does nothing else, and it just does it so well that it's really hard to stop because it can also protect it super well.
Yep.
But and I think that right after the bans, everyone was miserable because the biggest conversation post bans is the 2 decks that got better than anything else were Kinnan, who were just unaffected, and Rogsai because it was pretty much unaffected.
Yep.
Because those 2 decks were the best at putting down early mana production at that time. And so Rogsai went through this terrible phase where everyone was expecting it to be the best deck in the format, and instead everyone was actually hyper-responsible against it. The second they saw it at the table, they knew what they were doing, and they actually stuck to that. And if people go back to doing that, that deck will never do anything in its life. But right now we've hit this curve where people have not seen Rogsai for so long be consistent that the people who are good at Rogsai are dunking on them because you're getting one person in the pod who's responsible, and that's it. Yep. And until we move past that, which right now is now, and the reality is this deck is so good right now.
Big facts.
No, I'd agree with that analysis completely. Like, it was a super, super mid-rangey world, like even more so than it is right now, and what we've seen over the last few months post-ban. Because I think everyone innately went away from red because there was always that idea of like, oh, well, without Dockside, red sucks.
Facts.
Right? Like, we heard that a lot. And that obviously isn't true because Breach is still beyond busted, but it was a matter of like, okay, well, what are we going to do post-ban? So I do agree with that. Like, everyone's ready for Rogsai.
Mm-hmm.
And all the mid-range decks were running a decent suite of interaction to stop Rogsai pretty consistently. And what's going to end the semi-blue run is going to be Rogsai. Like, I believe that in my core.
100% agree.
Holy fuck, is Rogsai going to tear down this meta? My
Yeah.
God, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
1,000%.
See the writing on the wall.
We gotta get CEDH betting in this format so I can start betting on Dexter at these fucking events. Like,
I'm down, dude. We're already basically gambling. Like, we're playing a non-deterministic card game for money.
Don't tell him. There's a reason Texas has to pay us in cards.
Yeah, and Arizona, I think.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Wait,
sucks.
no, they gave me money. They gave
Did
me
they?
money.
I think they gave store credit. At Cradle?
Oh, was it? I did buy a card with it. It might have been store credit.
I think it was. Yeah, because I was like, this is useless.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with this? Yeah. Yeah. Rogsai. Fuck yeah. Yeah. All right. Or are we on 5? My number 5 is Timothrasius. And this is, again, not as much a vibe check because I don't have a lot of TNT players locally, so I don't get to read it as much as you guys might, since obviously, Jordan, you play it, and Max, you play with Jordan a lot, I imagine, or you see it more. So I just, based on, like, how it did at the Envy, like, I think having, you and Grant, I believe, were the 2 TNT players converting. I think there's a very good chance Grant could have been in that top 4 if things had gone a bit differently. I've heard a lot of things about that semis game specifically, but I digress. TNT is just a hyper consistent machine. and it's able to do a lot of good things well. And it has the benefits of Tymna and Thrasios. I think, unfortunately,
Mario and Luigi.
Yeah, facts. I say a lot of the same things about Blue Farm, where I'm like, it's not the best at anything, but it's like a 9 at everything. Like it's able to do a lot of things really well. And I don't know if Tymna Thrasios, I wouldn't call it worse Blue Farm because I think it operates on different axes, but there's a reason why I have it here instead of at number 1. So, yeah, and I don't know the deck as well, so I don't have as much to say. I believe that it is a good deck.
I think Blue Farm is the best with something, though. Like, Blue Farm has the highest floor in the format. It is the best at average card advantage in the entire format. Like, that is Blue Farm's ultimate strength.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair.
Its weakest game plan is better than most decks' primary.
Yeah. The sitting on Tymna and Crom game plan. Yeah. No, I completely agree with you.
Yep. No, I think like I said, I'll talk about TNT when I get to it. I'm a little biased towards it. I will say I think TNT, and I still believe this, and I will always, and I'll argue this with anyone. I think TNT is the hardest deck to pilot in the format currently. Legitimately, I think it is extremely hard to pilot correctly because it has almost choice paralysis sometimes with everything from deck construction to piloting the deck.
Agreed.
Like it's because there's so many builds for it, and there's not one consensus on which one is better. And even within the games themselves, no matter which build you're on, there's just a lot of choices that you have to make. And the decision tree on it, and like I talked about last time on this deck, the decision tree is so extensive that I think it's really easy to make mistakes on this deck, like just really easily. And I think that's part of what holds the deck back for like newer players, and I think that's why its conversion percentage is lower. But there's also a reason why good players also do extremely well on it,
and that's why it's still ranked highly here. To be clear,
yeah.
I don't give a fuck what the conversion percentage on any deck is. It means nothing to me.
But yeah, I'll talk more about it when I get there. But at number 5, I have Rockthras. So this is where I still. No. I have good reasons. So recently, I've lost faith in the deck for a few different reasons. One is that out of the last 10 or so games I've played it, the mulligans have not felt great, which is a little surprising to me because I think every ROG deck, I just expect to just explode mana, like constantly, consistently. But my hands have been all over the place. Some games I have like a really good ROG hand where I'm doing everything I want to do with it. But a lot of games I'm just getting cards that are really awkward, where it's like I don't really have the right setup to get everything going that I want to get going. So I have to keep mulling low to find the right stuff. And then when you're mulling to 5 and 4 cards, you're just putting yourself in a really weird spot where you're not going to probably win those games very often. And the fact that that's come up rather consistently, and I feel that it's not a pilot issue, right? Like I was the first thing I was doing was, okay, am I just mulling away hands that are keepable? But when I think about it, I'm not, right? Like I know what a good hand looks like, and I know what a good hand should be, and I know what my game plan with Rockthras is. Like I think I've played it enough at this point to where I know what I'm looking for. And I'm just not seeing those hands. I'm really just not seeing keepable hands that actually have a game plan beyond cast ROG, hold up interaction. And I know that like sometimes that can be viable, but some of the pods that I'm sitting in, there's just not a hand that I can keep from the seat position that I'm in. Right? I'm just not going to win those games. And so I've lost a little bit of faith in the deck because of that's the first reason. The second reason is I think more and more people are treating this deck like the new Boogeyman. Right, like so the way people used to treat Kinnan, the way people treat Rogsai, there have been more than one game where I just can't get anything going, and unless I'm willing to just like politic this person for 20 fucking minutes, I can't actually maneuver within the game because these people are so traumatized by the way Rockthras plays. And I don't think that's as big of a problem when you're playing more experienced pilots who know where the pressure points on the deck are. When you're playing against less experienced players who aren't really sure where to interact with Rockthras. It's getting to the point where like one of the strengths of Rockthras used to be, well, we don't know where to interact with it because it's all dumb bullshit that sucks. But now because people don't know where to interact with it, you're just getting inexperienced players that are just trying to wipe everything. And sometimes that creates weird games where all the interactions being used constantly on you, and players like Blue Farm pilots that aren't really doing anything besides playing Ristic Study and passing are just running away with these games. And that's been my experience lately. The deck has also let me down pretty consistently in these games where I'm drawing a lot of cards, but I'm not finding the wins, where it's like I'm getting stuff where I'm looking for like an instant speed enabler, not finding it, or like I just need a reducer here and I'm not finding it, or like I just need a land tutor and I win this game and I can't find it. And that's happened rather consistently, and I feel like that's just an issue of the deck's construction, where like it's color pie, right? Like it just doesn't have all the tools at its disposal in the way like a black deck would, because you just don't have the tutors that go for everything. I've also seen this deck just get shut down hard, like really hard, by either the right removal at the right time or the right stacks piece at the right time, and it just doesn't do anything. And so I still think the deck is really strong, right? Like it's still top 5, and I think as things ebb and flow, I think it'll be strong again. But I also think this deck can struggle against really solid pilots. Like I think Sam Black really aptly described it when he was like, I think I've been prepping this deck and it beats up on players that don't really know what's going on. And so if you have players that don't really know how to interact and they're not interacting with you at all, the deck just steamrolls people. But I think against better pilots, they're starting to figure out like the pressure points of this deck are really in on the reducers. Like if you can remove the reducers, the deck can struggle a little bit. Removing Valley Flood Caller, not letting like it set up with the Max, help me out. Valley Flood Caller and what?
Earthcraft
or Enduring Vitality.
Earthcraft. Thank you.
Yeah.
I kept wanting to say Survival, and I was like, that's not the right expensive green enchantment. Yeah. So like, do what?
2 mana. How is that expensive?
No. Dollar wise expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Survival and Earthcraft.
Who thought they'd have to buy a candelabra of Tano's?
True.
And so that's just my thing, right? Like it's like I said, we've talked about this before, and I know you disagree with this, but I still think fundamentally the deck wants to operate the Thrasios plan, and when it can't do that for various reasons, it struggles.
I agree with a lot of what you said, Jordan. And I think it was a insane deck in mid-range, and I'm really curious. I'm actually just genuinely curious to see how it performs in this turbo meta. Like I wonder if its access to interaction is going to be like benefit it and make it so that it will be able to function, or if it's going to get outpaced and bogged down by more uninteractive decks that are just pushing wins quickly. So yeah, I'm going to talk about it more later as well.
Jordan, I just need you to ask yourself in your heart, if you put the best pilot on each of these decks and you're putting me on Rockgrass, you think I finish 5th?
Yeah, I think depending on the deck, yeah, for sure.
Damn.
Like here's the thing, right? Like the Invitational I think was very telling, where only one Rockgrass player did even kind of decent. And like I know Pigeon got stuck in some weird pods, which kind of threw things
All
off.
the Rockgrass players got stuck in fucking 3 pods.
Right, but I think that's, in my opinion, right? A 3-pod almost works a little bit to your advantage because you're holding a less interaction. I don't know that I agree with that. I think you would probably dunk on a lot of decks if you were sitting in a 3-pod, where you're not having to use as much of your interaction. You're just getting to sit there and farm your pieces.
You want to play the game of chicken as long as possible, and less players makes it harder to play the game of chicken, and the game goes quicker, and you are not allowed to develop as much. A 4-player pod is absolutely better for Rockgrass than a 3-player pod. Absolutely.
Well, I think 4-player pod's better for every deck, right? But I don't think it's such a detriment in the way.
Rogsai.
Do what?
Crick. Rogsai.
Well, yeah, but okay. Right, outside of like a couple turbo decks. I mean, Crick is never going to play the Invitational. Probably.
We could have said the same thing about Atali.
No, see, we were joking about Atali because we even said with all these blue farms, Atali might just be the meta takedown,
right?
Like legitimately.
Yeah,
I think more people should have played Atali. Absolutely, I think it would have done great. Like, there's one person brought it and he made top 16.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He could have won that game too. Had his flips been better.
Yeah. But yeah, like I don't know. I think like that was very telling. Like Rockthrash did struggle in the Invitational, and I don't think that was a fluke. Like I legitimately think against certain pods and against really good players, the deck just has. It's very easy to figure out where it's attacking from. Well, we are to your number 4, Max.
My number 4 is the deck you disrespected so bad, my guy. Oh my god. At number 4, I have Timna Dargo. This is a deck I have like an unbelievable amount of respect for. It is one of the most terrifying things when I see it across the table, because I know I'm against a deck that can fuck me up with actual interaction that fucks me. I know I'm against a deck that will protect a turn 3 win condition in a way that's difficult for people to interact with. I know it's a deck that can grind the mid-range exceptionally well, has so many advantage engines and so many ways to grind that advantage, and can win through a incredibly dense way. Like, one of the things I love about Rogdrass is the number of things that can result in a win, and Dargo Timna is similar, where like the amount of various lines, it's not stuck. Like, most Mardu decks are stuck on like a couple of lines that actually get there. You know, even when you look at Grixis deck, it's really just a couple of lines that actually get there. Dargo Timna is just this absolutely resilient and interesting and diverse package of ways to get there. I mean, we're talking about decks that are sometimes on Naw, sometimes not, sometimes on Necro, usually on Necro now, but like they're on Purity of the Abyss, they're on Citadel, they're on Breach combos, they're on this like diversity of Dargo combos, they're on Ruthless Technomancer combos, they're on just like, and a lot of them are creature combos, which specifically out of Mardu is like not what you're expecting. You know, you put down a Ranger Captain against Mardu, you're expecting that to survive your turn, but it does not against Dargo Timna a lot of the time, and that's what's so crazy about it. Like, the deck can just win in a lot of ways, and the things it's doing all synergize together really well, and they all fuel their various plans, and it's a deck that I've gained the utmost respect for, and I think it's in a phenomenal place in the meta. I know you guys say you think it's in a worse place. I think it definitely had that, like, shot right there where it was just like, oh, take down everything, and I hear you. And at that moment, it was fucking top tier, right? It was right up there. And I don't think it's quite there because more people are aware of what it's doing, but I don't think we've hit the place that people know how to stop it effectively. I don't think they know how to take out all of its lines and when to actually interact. I mean, most of my games against Kellen, he specifically complimented me after it, knowing the exact interaction point, where he was like, no one else would have actually like known to do that there, right? Like, swordsing the Bowmaster token with a weird thing on the stack, he was like, there's no one else that would have thought that was the correct thing, and that was absolutely the thing that was going to stop me in that moment. Like, there's just little things that people miss, and it's a really hard deck to interact with effectively. And I think it's in a great place right now, because we're talking about all these decks that are trying to win on turn 2 and turn 3, and this deck can. It can absolutely keep the hands that just do that. Like, it's not a problem for it to mulligan for a quick win. That's a totally reasonable thing for this deck to do. But then it also just, again, Floor of Timna. Like, Floor of Timna is so good in any deck, especially when your other commander just beats the shit out of people. Yeah. Right? So, like, Floor of Timna is phenomenal. Able to win quickly. Good against the full graph spectrum, right? This is a deck I'm terrified of in the mid game as well, because when it starts just grinding Timna advantage, it's cool. It's just gonna fucking Cavern of Souls, Abolisher, Voice of Victory, Ranger Captain. Like, it will push through any type of silence effect, and then it has so many fucking win conditions. I think people need to be more afraid of this deck, not less afraid of this deck. It's a deck I have a ton of respect for, and me and Kellen have now a standing deal that if we can find like a mid-size event, I will play Dargo Timna and he will play Talion.
Nice.
So I look forward to that.
That's sick.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with what you said. I think Jordan and I both said our piece on it, but I hope the deck keeps doing well, because it's like having Mardu representation is really important. And there's other Mardu pilots, like Brian is a really phenomenal Dihada pilot. Jacob is probably the best Kalia pilot out there. And just having multiple really good Mardu Dargo Timna pilots is important. And yeah, I also genuinely enjoy playing the deck, and I think if you haven't tried it, it's really, really fun. Just to like do the lines, like resolving a Citadel is a blast, and then also just like its ability to capitalize on very low mana. Like, you can just go Grand Abolish and have 1 mana left over, and then you go Lotus Petal, Dargo Sacrifice, boom, I win. Right into Pure, so it can go
Yawgmoth
quickly.
Has been an awesome addition.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, I won a game that I had a Smothering Tide that I just assembled like Yawgmoth, keep casting Dargo for 1 treasure, and just like drawing like 20 cards while I did it. It also goes infinite with Bergie in the same way. Like, Yawgmoth's been sick for the deck.
Yep. Yeah. Or just landing a Magda. Like, you have so fucking many treasure producers in this deck, like insane amounts of treasure production. And not only does Magda get Citadel, it also gets your tutor with Wishclaw. It gets Cursed Mirror, which can just be a Grand Abolisher. Like, if someone has an Abolisher, or whatever, it can copy your Technomancer. Like, its ability to pivot off of, like you said, so many
Relic of
different
Legends,
ways.
Altar
Yeah,
of Dementia,
exactly.
Altar of the Wretched. Like,
Yes.
there's so many good targets for artifacts. And
Yeah.
that's why they're on the Welder lines as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's another thing you have to look out for is just Welder shit.
Yep, which is creature based, and very low to the floor. So yeah, totally agree with you.
No, like I said, like I said earlier, I liked him in Dargo. I just think it needs a little love right now.
Yeah,
Little help.
yeah.
Oh, and I'm just giving you shit. I love you. Agree to disagree. It's fine.
You?
What?
I said you like to disagree.
Me? I like to give people shit. What? I don't fucking know.
That's crazy. Okay, so my 4, I have Sisse, and I am definitely biased just because of Jeremy, and like having to play him so much and struggling against him, and like he's one of my, like I would say he's someone I play tested a bunch for the Invitational. Like I play him in most tournaments I play in, either for fun or in tournament games. We get paired together a ton, and I just respect him on that deck so much that it's actually been a great teacher, because like playing against other Sisse decks, I know where they're going, and I think I see lines that they don't see because Jeremy has done that on me. And I'm like, you could win right now, and they're like, I can't win. I'm like, okay, sure, you don't see it, but I see it. And yeah, I just think it's doing the creature thing really well. It's not casting a lot of spells. It's just activating abilities of creatures, and like you said, Jordan, it's able to just sit there and appear non-threatening. And I do think more advanced players are able to sniff out where it's going and how it's going to get there. But the other thing that it has is there's no one Sisse list that is the same. Like, it's truly a deck that could be on anything. It could be the Clam Chowder. It could be a Planeswalker. It could be a creature base. It could be, fucking a boat. Like, it has such a diversity of options that it can choose, that I just think it is one of the best decks of the meta, and it performed really well in the Invitational. And not that that's like a gold standard of any kind, because there was definitely problems with that event, but just seeing 2 Sisse players top 4, having the number 1 player right in front of me in Swiss, Dio, like throughout the whole tournament, he was number 1 pretty much, and just winning a lot against some of the best players in the nation. So yeah, I got Sisse at number 4.
Yeah, I like Sisse a lot. Yeah, I talked about it. One of the cool things about Sisse, something I didn't touch on before.
Yeah,
it's the deck that is almost guaranteed every set that there's going to be some cards for it to look at, because of the nature of every legendary can theoretically be a Sisse card.
Yep. And they want to push good legendary for Commander, because that's the best selling format.
Yeah.
So, like Taro is an insane pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I've already seen them talking about like I think the Cabbage Merchant's legendary too, right? Because I think
Oh, Cabin Merchant's so good in that deck. Yeah.
Is it legendary? That'd be crazy.
I think he is.
Oh yeah. Oh, Cabin Merchant's legendary, bro.
What the fuck, dude?
Bro,
Fucking hell.
Cabbage Merchant's one of the greatest cards I've ever printed. I love that thing. I don't even think it's as good as people think it is. I think it's a very good Magic card, but just I am an Avatar diehard. My dog is named Suki. She was supposed to be Zuko. My van I lived in that was blue on the outside and rainbow watercolor on the inside was named Korra. Like, I love Avatar. So
too.
Cabbage Man is one of my favorite running memes that any show has ever done, and it's great.
And it's a good Magic card on top of that.
And like the fact that Cabbage Merchant is legitimately playable makes me very happy.
Agreed.
That was Andy Beach getting a Sonic the Hedgehog set. Like, this is that for me.
Literally.
I'm so excited for the first time someone swings at me and I go, my cabbages.
My cabbages. But like, that's what's great, right? Is people hit you and you lose your food. It's like so
I know, that's perfect.
Good, dude.
Brilliant.
It's so good.
Yeah, that's
It's
a
so-
dub on Wizards.
I don't know that I've seen one yet, but you've got to imagine that food token is a cabbage. There's no way.
Oh God,
it's
I
not.
hope so.
I will fucking pay altar artists for these cabbages if I need to. Like,
Hell yeah.
I'm sad it's not a Rock Thrust card, but
Yeah.
it's good in a lot of decks.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a TNT card though. I'm so excited for it. Brewmaster is
100%.
getting more utility.
Oh my God, dude. Fucking
Maybe.
Delny?
Like Bloom Tender just might have to go back in the deck. Every time you cast a spell, I make a Bloom Tender. Fuck you.
Yeah,
That's
nutty.
actually sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Delny Cabbage Merchant, hell of a vibe.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be gross.
Smothering fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for that card. You have no idea.
It's gonna be sick.
So what do I have at number 4? Oh, I have Roxai. Yeah. So yeah, Roxai at number 4. I think Roxai is extremely well positioned. I'm almost have all the cards I need to finally put my Roxai together and start playing it.
Nice.
Like in a tournament. So I'm really excited for this deck. I've been goldfishing it a lot and I'm having a blast with it. So I'm curious to see how it'll play on paper. But I think it's really well positioned right now. Like I said, the semi-blue, for one, I do not get semi-blue. Like I have goldfished them and the hands feel like shit. And I'm missing something. I know I am because everyone tells me these decks win on turn 3. Not in my experience, what I'm seeing. But clearly I'm missing something here because they apparently they are working. But no deck is going to destroy these parasitic I'm not going to run any interaction style decks than Roxai.
Yep.
And so I do think we're about to enter a world where Roxai is going to feast for a while. I do think people are tired of the mid range and people are trying to find ways to get through the mid range better. And Roxai is a deck I don't feel like people are really looking at that closely because everyone's like, oh, Roxai died with Dockside and Mana Crypt. And it's never really going to come back. But the stats don't support that. Its stats are insane.
Yep.
And I think as we shift back to Turbo, and I think that I think everyone started talking about like there was a Turbo summer, but it really felt more like it was just, oh, we can play Mardu again, right? Like people weren't necessarily playing Turbo decks; they were just playing Mardu decks.
Yep.
And now I feel like we are starting to actually get into real Turbo.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I just think this deck is extremely well positioned right now. I think it's going to probably rise up this ranking. I would not be surprised if it ends up being number 2 the next time we're talking about this, to be honest. I don't think anything's ever going to surpass Blue Farm. But I do think Roxai's got a chance to be number 2, and I think it's going to be extremely well positioned.
Okay, the concept of Mardu Summer, trying to claim it was Mardu Summer, when we were in a stacks meta, and we've explained how Turbo loses to stacks, was the dumbest thing they ever tried to make happen. That was the worst
Like I said, it wasn't even
imaginable.
Well, like people were like, "Oh, Turbo Mardu Summer," but then all the Mardu decks I was seeing were like kind of like the Kellen's mid-rangey-ish, Timna Dargo, and then like Michael's
Turbo.
Dahada was Turbo. That's fair. I'll give you that. Kalia's not Turbo. At least it doesn't feel Turbo.
It can.
It's always like a turn
I think
behind
every
where I want it to be.
Mardu deck could Turbo.
Right?
Like, but it's
like
Mardu
Blue
decks-
Farm.
Mardu decks are often in positions of can sometimes win turn 2, if winning on turn 2, never protected. Turn 3, almost can always win, sometimes protected. Turn 4 can always win, always protected.
Yeah, that's fair.
Is kind of their curse.
I'd say that's fair. That's fairly fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Blue Farm, right? Like it can turbo really quickly if it wants to. I just don't find a lot of the pilots are playing that game plan right now, or were during Mardu Summer, Turbo, Mardu Summer. But yeah, I think Roxai is really well positioned, and this is a deck I used to hate, and I don't know why I'm so excited to play it, but I am. So here we are.
I do love Roxai. It's so cool. And it was honestly there's been a bunch of decks that I've like played for series of 10 games or whatever, and Roxai's one I actually ended up playing like 20 on and taking to a tournament, and it was some of my most fun, interesting lines I've ever had to take in CDH. It is a very complicated and engaging brain puzzle that
it is.
Your end result is always the same, and that's why people say it's the same shit every time, but the actual journey to get to that end result is often a complicated mana mathematical line, and you have to figure that out really quickly, and I find that fun.
Yep.
And navigating the interaction was super fun, especially as being the person who is the control player. Trying to be like, can't catch me now was really fun. And that brings us to number 3, where we're getting to the points that we're all probably pretty similar. My number three is Kinnan. Kinnan's cool. I love Kinnan. Kinnan has been my baby for a long time.
There are 10-minute rants of me ranting about Kennen in previous ones of these videos. We don't need to do that right now. This video's already been 3 hours. Kennen's really strong. It's a super flexible deck. It is a deck that is super strong in the whole curve. It is good early game. It is good mid game. It is dominant late game. Holy shit, is it dominant late game. It doesn't really fold to stacks in the same way. It is sometimes difficult to interact with because it just has so much mana. It rebuilds really efficiently. It's very difficult to shut down effectively, especially the new parasitic, like Ristic builds are just like doing their thing, and Kennen's just a mana battery, and they don't care if you kill it really at all. Deck's super good. Deck's super powerful. Doesn't have a lot of great pilots right now, but the ones who are super great in it, super, super good. I still think OG grind them into dust is the way to go. I love that shit. And I think that deck's dope as fuck. And, you know, all the games I've played in it recently in random games, like, it's been great. It's felt phenomenal. Kennen's still dope as shit. I think it just puts itself in a position that Kennen terrifies people. You know, a long thing that's been said is Kennen does not need a pilot; it needs a PR manager, and that's really how it is often. Like, you want to talk about decks getting blown out just for being what they are, and someone not caring about the context of the game. That's the shit that happens to Kennen. People just fucking hate that deck. My God, do they hate that deck? But I love that deck. That deck's dope as shit. Yeah, Kennen's really cool. Like, being a deck that can honestly win on turn 2 and turn 3, and a deck that's like one of the most powerful in existence in the late and mid game, all paired into one, is like such a powerful thing to be. Like, really being strong at all points of the game is beyond powerful. Being able to interact on the board, on the stack, being able to win through any type of thing, being able to win at flash speed, being able to draw all the cards, having a bunch of effects that are game breaking in your deck is a super powerful thing that a lot of other decks can't do. The same way Dargo's unique in that it enables so many things, Kennen's unique in that you get to play fucking Nyx Bloom Ancient and Thorn Mammoth, and even if you're not in those cards, you're still on Hullbreaker, Tidespout, Wandering Archaic, Seedborn Muse, like just a bunch of busted ass goddamn bullshit. And that's what, bro, you want to talk about semi-blue that's been able to interact for a long time? That's Kennen, baby. Like, Kennen's been throwing those schlompers on the board since day one, dude. Like, it schlomps. Like, it schlomps, and it schlomps fast, dude. I love that deck. Like, Kennen's dope as shit. It's at number 3 for a reason, and I think it's still in a great place. And, you know, it is, as everyone has said since the beginnings of CEDH time, that it existed. Low floor. If you don't know what you're doing, that deck's booty cheeks. But if you know what you're doing, that deck's busted. You know? And there's a lot of decks that way. And, you know, the decks that you see really consistent stats on, a lot of times those are the decks that have stable floors. Like, don't just look at a conversion percentage, right? Look at what the best pilots are doing with those decks. And with Kennen, you'll see the best pilots are having a lot of success. There's a and Ian just won a Time Twister on a totally different build of Kennen that's just like, hey, we're back to Turbo Kennen now. Fuck you. Like, and that shit did great.
Yeah. Agreed. I think it's seen. I don't know. I think it's because it's so hated. People like when I played Kennen for a minute. Like I did really well with it earlier in the season, and every single time my friends would give me shit about it. They're like, "Oh, here comes Kennen again. Like, here's the crayon eater coming to the table." And it's like, my Kennen has eaten so much removal. Huh?
I didn't know we were Marines.
I know. I didn't either. Kennen turns people into like angry people. Like, yeah. And I think it's going to be. It is, like you said, good in so many different archetypes and built so many different ways, and it should be a dominant deck. I think that
it's one of the decks that's truly meta resilient.
Yeah, I think that's super fair. And I mean, Waffle's been on it consistently like this whole year, and he's been just dominating. So, yeah. Okay, sweet. My number 3 is Roxai. Perhaps premature, just because it hasn't been played as much as I think it should be. But I have a feeling we're about to see a shitload of Roxai, and I think that, like, you know, you're putting it together, I'm putting it together. Like, I think everyone is about to be playing this deck because they see the, you know, defenseless elk of semi-blue wandering through the woods, and the paper tiger is going to come out in force.
Have you seen my cousin Vinny?
What? No.
Have you seen my cousin Vinny?
I haven't.
Okay, after this, and people who are watching this, go Google the fucking bit of my cousin Vinny where she's talking about a deer. That's all you need to know.
Okay,
bet.
Great. Noted. I got terrible Small People song and My Cousin Vinny.
Short people.
Short people. Sorry. Yeah, I'm not a bad person. I promise. So yeah, I think Rockside is going to dominate. We've all talked about it a lot. I don't think there's too much more to say. I do think the interesting thing was I really congratulate like Logan Doan for pioneering Rongside and trying to make that a thing. I think he reached the natural conclusion that I had about the deck, which is that it's worse blue farm. But it's not necessarily wrong to be playing wrong side. It's just a different take on this sort of turbo advantage that we were seeing a lot happen this year. And it's also going to confuse people when they sit down from a wrong side and they're going to be like, oh, it's just a wrong side. And it's not going to be anymore. It's about to be full turbo. I'm winning on turn 2. You know what I want to see is semi-blue Rogside. Let's see the Rogside that cuts the force, the flusters, the mind break traps, and just goes as fast as humanly possible.
That has happened. That was Dark Rog last year.
Yeah,
that was Dark Rog.
Yeah, no force of will. Yeah,
but Dark Rog partially worked because it allowed Dockside Magna for Citadel to be a thing.
For sure.
Losing Dockside did kind of take away Dark Rog.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my number 3. Let's go Rogside.
My number 3 is Blue Farm. No, I'm just kidding. Now this is where I have TNT. So TNT is my baby, but I can't rank it 2 or 1 because I do think it's a step worse than the 2 decks I'll put above it. I think everyone said here, I think TNT is one of those weird decks where it almost doesn't have like a great identity because there's so many builds of it. And there isn't a consensus, like I was saying before, on which build is necessarily the best, which creates the issue I've actually seen from quite a few TNT pilots is they keep switching versions of the deck. So they're not seeing success on one version after 10 games. They'll switch to another version and not see success. And I think that's causing it's doing a disservice to the pilots because I think to really understand the lines that the deck is offering you within its variant, you really need to play a shitload of games to understand the nuances that each version of the deck is offering because they're very, very different play patterns. And so I do think the identity crisis that TNT has a little bit, whether you're the Razdakith deck or you're the Tree Farm deck or you're the No Bad Cards TNT or you're some variation that's of those kind of a combined version of some of those cards. Like I think like Jorman's List is kind of a version of No Bad Cards and a mix of the Tree Farm style like thrown together. And I think when you're kind of switching between all these variants, you lose the nuances that the deck offers you. And like I said before, because I still believe it, and I know, Max, you disagreed, but I do think TNT is still, like I said, a very complex deck to pilot. Its decision tree is extremely extensive.
I do think it is very complex, and it has a shitload of decision trees, and it is one of the harder decks to pilot in the format. 100% agree with you on all of that. I don't agree it is the most complicated deck in the format. That was the only thing I scoffed at.
Okay, that's fair. Just from my experience, I think it's the most complicated deck I've seen, and I think it's the most complicated deck I've piloted. And I do believe, just based on my experience talking to other people, that it is. If it's not number 1, it is definitely in the top 3 most complicated decks. And I think, like we always talk about numbers, and it's why I think its conversion rate is low because I do think players are switching between the different variations too much. They're probably not making correct decisions in the metagame that Tree Farm would, or decks like Tree Farm would probably require like a little bit better decision making. And so I do think the deck is hard, but at its ceiling, this deck is incredibly powerful. Like it's so incredibly powerful, and it's not just like I'm biased towards the Tree Farm build because that's the version that I kind of brewed up with some other people and took some of my different ideas and threw it together. And I think it is the most powerful version of the deck, and I had a lot of success with it. Like I don't think it's an accident that the 2 Tree Farm builds top 16 the Invitational and the rest of the TNTs did not. Right? Like I don't think that's an accident because it's just really interesting that you can operate on the Rock Thrash axis and you can do a lot of the cool Rock Thrash things, but you don't need to run. You don't do it by running clones. You do it by running like some powerful engines, things like the Oculus, which can be a little awkward in Rock Thrash. Maxie and I have talked about that, but it works really well in TNT.
Terrible in Rock Thrash. Yeah, terrible in Rock Thrash.
And things like Oscillate Pride, Charismatic Conqueror, which I did not run in the Invitational, but I still think in a just kind of normal meta, those cards are fine, right? Because there's there's this misconception that exists that you're the cradle farm deck. Like, this is just bad rock drafts because you're cradle farming. And I think people always forget, like, Tymna still exists. And so a lot of these cards, they set up the Tymna plan just as well. And so you're never locked into a game plan of, I can only go through Thrasios, in the way that Rock Thras and Dog Thras and Tevish Thras can sometimes force it. Tevish Thras a little bit less because you always have Tevish, but Rock Thras and Dog Thras can definitely have that problem of, like, we're all in on Tymna. Or sorry, we're all in on Thrasios. Whereas TNT has the Tymna plan to always fall back on, and we can grind through some weird stacks decks. Like, we can grind through Curse Totem games. I've won plenty of games where Curse Totem was on the board the entire game, and I did not have to worry about it. Like, it didn't really stop me. And, you know, that's not something I think that can be said about the other decks quite as much. Like, there's a point where you have to bounce it to start really maneuvering yourself forward. And I think, because we have access to black, we're very, very consistent on what we can do. We can get through our lines really quickly. I think you said it too, Max. Like, a lot of people forget, like, we still have Thoracle Consult and we still have Devoted Druid, Swift. Like, these are 3-mana win conditions that we can just put together right then and there. I've won plenty of games by going, like, turn 1 Voice of Victory, turn 2 Devoted Druid, turn 3 I'm winning, right? Like, and the amount of times where people just didn't have anything to bounce my voice. It's like, I win. Like, you didn't have it. Or, like, I can Thoracle Consult really quickly, or I can hold the Tainted Pact up, Worldly Tutor for a Thoracle, and then Thoracle Tainted Pact and win. Like, it is very compact, all of its win conditions, and it does it all so quickly and well that people forget the deck doesn't have to be plotting. It's just, a lot of times we're better to sit there and play into the world where we can throw down our silence effects and then win handedly from there. So I still very much believe in the deck. Like I said, there was a very real world in which there should have been 2 TNTs and 2 blue farms in the top 4 of the Invitational.
Yeah.
And again, I just don't think that's an accident. If I don't make a misplay, I'm probably sitting there. And I don't really know everything that happened in Grant's game, but I've heard various things about, he probably should have won that game. And I don't know everything that happened there because I didn't see it. I don't want to talk too much on it.
Because it's also easily arguable that Jay should have. Like, it gets to a weird place.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
Yeah. So, like, but there's a real world, right? And I think when you're having a conversation like best decks in the format, if you have 2 decks that could have been there very easily, and then the two of the best decks, spoiler alert, Blue Farm is probably going to be number 1 for all of us. Then I don't think it's an accident that this deck is deserving of a top 5, if not top 3 status.
Mm-hmm.
No, the deck is dope.
Yeah, I wish I saw more Tymna Thrasios in my meta. I don't see anyone doing it the way that you are, and I don't see a lot of highly proficient players playing the deck. So, and when I played it, I thought it was incredibly complex. Like, coming off your Boyle victory, I was like, this is really cool. And everyone thought Tymna Thrasios was going to be like the deck, like it was going to be the new blue farm. And so I think a lot of people were playing with it and trying things out. And I thought it was a really hard deck to pilot. I thought it was a really hard deck to brew. So I agree with a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at Blue Farm as a 4-color pile, it's obvious what you're doing. Blue Farm is the pile of the best cards and the best win conditions, and that's all Blue Farm is. TNT does not have a direct, like, we're going for Underworld Breach. Like, it's there's a lot of options on your journey to get to where you want to go, and that's why it's a lot harder to have a locked in list versus, like, Blue Farm's 95 cards that everyone plays.
Yeah, and I think that's the one thing that sucks about the conversation that happens around TNT, where I see a lot of people just dunk on it and call it a bad deck, especially among content creators. And I think it sucks because I've seen so many TNT pilots get disheartened by it and drop the deck to go play like Rock Thras or Tevish Thras or switch over to Blue Farm entirely. And I'm seeing less and less just TNT pilots picking it up because of kind of the rhetoric that goes around the deck, which is unfortunate. And it's why I try so hard to, like, and it's why I'm very passionate about the deck. So it's also why I try to, like, curb it a little bit by saying, like, guys, the deck's fine. Like, clearly it's fine, right? If it was that bad, it wouldn't have performed at the hardest tournament
Agreed.
against the best players, right? Like, it would have fallen apart. And so I think, but you're right. Like, it's harder for new pilots to get into it because it is so hard. Mm-hmm. So it's not a deck that you can easily switch over from something like Blue Farm, where its game plan is extremely linear. And, like, I do believe that, like, Blue Farm's plan that it's wanting to set up is just very straightforward. I know I want to go breach, and I just got a few different paths on how to get there. Whereas, like, even our win cons, we don't always know exactly which win con we're going for at the beginning of a game. in TNT. Like sometimes we have to kind of see how the game plays out and then figure out where we're going to pivot into as we're going. And sometimes we're just kind of at the mercy of what the deck gives us. Like that does happen sometimes.
Sorry, Zach. We're Blue Farm haters on this pod.
Oh, I feel you, dog. I've been playing this deck for so long. Like it's been like 5 months of Blue Farm for me.
I picked up Blue Farm for a bit when I was getting a little bored of TNT and needed a change up. And I don't think it's boring necessarily, but it's not.
It's linear.
I don't know. It doesn't tickle my mind the same way.
Yeah, I think that's completely
really
fair.
doesn't.
And I'm sure we'll all talk about Blue Farm in more depth, but I get what people say when they say it's a boring deck to play. Like I completely understand and I validate that and I hear them. But that also doesn't mean that it's not the best deck. So
No, yeah.
No, I mean, TNT is super dope. TNT is a super strong deck and can win at any point in the game, and is a deck that should be feared. And it is absolutely one of the top decks in the format.
Hey,
Like,
but the
I don't
more
think
they
any of us disagree
disrespect
with
us, the more there's plenty of people who disagree with that. But the more it gets
I said any of
disrespected,
us, but
yeah.
oh yeah, that's true. But the more it gets disrespected, also I've noticed it's becoming less and less of like a because initially after the Boil 2, God, dude, the first couple tournaments after the Boil 2 were rough. Where everyone like I was getting that side eye of like, okay, I see what you're doing there, Jordan. Bye bye TNT.
nothing.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
Oh God, dude. When your Birds of Paradise get swords on turn 1, you know you're in for a rough time.
That's
Okay, that's
crazy.
fucking stupid though. That's dumb as fuck. Dude.
Yeah.
Like you know it's about to just be a rough time. And I have not experienced that in a while. Like the TNT does not get hated off the board anymore. And I don't get the side eye anymore, which has been that's the only positive to everyone shitting on the deck.
Yeah, that's super fair. I mean, deck's awesome. Yeah. Super flexible, super resilient, does a lot of cool shit. Very complicated to play. Commit to a list, try it out for a while, like see what you can do with it. Honestly, that is great advice for TNT pilots. I mean, it's great advice for everyone, right? Like really commit to a deck and see what it can do for you when you actually give it enough games instead of just looking for that immediate success. Because
and commit to a list too. Like I feel like people are so quick to change their list as soon as like something's not working. What I like to do is like write down all the cards that don't feel good in a game and see how consistently they show up as cards that don't feel good, so that I know like, okay, these cards are continuously a problem. Where it was like maybe it was just this one game with this one niche scenario where this card didn't feel good, but the other 9 games I drew it feels fine.
Yeah. Should we get into our top 2?
I think we all have the same top 2, don't we? Oh no, we don't. Never mind. I lied.
No, we don't.
I'm the squirrel.
The way I ranked these decks was imagining what I think the absolute ceiling of any deck is.
That's how you're going to justify it.
At number 2, I put Blue Farm.
Yeah, I knew it.
100%, baby. I think Blue Farm has the best floor in the format, right? It has the best overall stats in the format. I think because of that floor. Like having the best floor is going to lead you to the best average statistics over a diverse amount of events. Like that's just a natural thing to do. And Blue Farm, while having the best floor, also has one of the best ceilings, right? I think you get to a very murky place with the true ceiling of a deck where you look at Rogdrass and Timnacrom and Kinnan and Rogsai, and like those ceilings can all get pretty similar in a similar range for sure. Where like they at the top tier of what they can do are an S tier deck, right? They are that upper echelon that we've talked about for years for a reason. Rogdrass is a bit newer to the block, but like Timnacrom and Blue Farm or Timnacrom and Kinnan have definitely been there, right, neck and neck for a long time. Like the ceilings of these decks are a hard thing to properly justify. But when I think about what the meta is right now, I think about it as a very greedy place. I think of it in a place where people are afraid of people winning the game, and the conversation is always about, are you going to win on your turn? Are you going to win on your turn? You know, how close can you fly to the sun? And Blue Farm is hindered in this like journey to attain value without being the immediate threat because it's so direct at winning the game. It doesn't have a I can just go for value plan as much. Like you can always Smothering Tide, the Risky Study, Mystic Grimoire. Yes, it has value plans, but in terms of like what you're tutoring for, it's a weird thing to argue, right? And everyone knows that if you draw one tutor, you win the game. You know, everyone sees the lines that you directly very clearly have. When Blue Farm has 10 cards in hand and 6 mana, it's very unlikely that they're unable to win the game. And everyone knows that. And so the deck is often pointed out as the enemy. It's been the best deck in the format as a reason. Everyone views it as the best deck in the format. And so I think its ultimate failure is its inability to fly too close to the sun without actually getting burnt. And that to me is what limits its absolute ceiling right now, where people are naturally more afraid of you. Everyone knows what Blue Farm does, right? It is a deck built around Rhystic Study, Mystic Remora, Esper Sentinel, Tymna, and Crom. Some of the best card advantage engines in the game, and then some lists are on Necro, most lists are on Nas. It is able to do the Turbo Grixis thing. It's able to do it protected with White Silence effects, and it's able to grind the mid game. And it is one of the strongest decks at every point in the spectrum at every point of the game. It is a deck capable of anything. Its weaknesses are really just the fact that it is too scary, and the fact that it's not the most synergistic deck. It really is just a pile of good cards that you're drawing a lot of. Outside of that, it is the golden statue. It is Kiros from Dressrosa. This thing is not going to be beat by much. And I'm putting it at number 2, and I've had it at number 1 for a long time for a reason. And obviously that means I'm putting Rockthras at number 1. And I'm not saying that like Rockthras is ahead of it by some metric mile or anything like that. Like, it really is neck and neck for me. But when I think about the ultimate ceiling of what these decks are capable of, I think Rockthras is just a little bit higher.
I hear what you're saying, and I've had a lot of similar thoughts myself playing both. I've played a lot of Blue Farm recently, and I am really not someone who is like a deck specialist. Like, I have a ton of deck ADHD, and I play a ton of different decks. It was really just this year, in the past, I think, gosh, I'm trying to remember when Fishbowl was, the most recent Fishbowl. It was March, yeah. So it's pretty much after March, a little bit after March, like maybe April-ish or May, that I really locked in on Blue Farm. And I felt like the deck had easy wins a lot of the time. There's a lot of games where you just get it handed to you by the deck, and you actually don't have to try that hard. And that's why the floor is so comfortable for a lot of players to be at, is because you can pick it up and have immediate success. So you get a lot of that dopamine of like, oh wow, I'm doing all those things, and I don't even need to be, quote unquote, that good at the deck. Because you have such good cards, you have the mana acceleration provided through all the ritual-based effects, through the Tithe. Like, Tithe has been such an all-star this year. Through the creature plan, like having Lothos and having Facebreakers and Tatar now. And then you get the best card draw in the game, in a way. You get the best card draw that's based off of doing very much of nothing, where you're either landing a Tymna and drawing, you're landing a Rhystic and drawing if other people casting spells, your Tithe's getting fed by other people casting spells. Like, these are all things we already know about the deck. I do believe that it is, and I'm kind of combining the Blue Farm and Rockthras and responding to kind of what you said, but I agree that it is harder for Blue Farm to fly close to the sun or to just keep gaining value without being straight up winning the game. But what it does have is the white. And I think white has been really undervalued by a lot of people for a long time. People thought white wasn't, one of the best colors in Magic, and I truly believe that it is. And it's what sets Blue Farm apart from a Grixis deck. But just being able to land something like an uncounterable Grand Abolisher, or having the early Esper Sentinels, or being... really what changed it for me was when Voice of Victory came out, and I was like, this is it. That's game over.
Huge ad for the deck.
Huge. It's perhaps one of the best Tymna creatures in the deck, and it's the easiest to deploy Grand Abolisher effect you have, because you don't have that extra white pip. It creates bodies for Calling the Weak and Diabolic Intent. It has Tymna attackers attached to it. It's just like having more silence effects that are easy to put on that also benefit your B game plan of Tymna and Crom, I think catapulted the deck so far ahead. And so that's what I believe sets it apart from Rockthras, is it's not as able to fly close to the sun, and it also doesn't operate at flash speed, I believe, as well as Rockthras. I think Rockthras gets to play that game a lot better. But it does have the ability to just have uncontested I win the game buttons, that I resolve this Grand Abolisher, this Voice of Victory, this Ranger Captain of Eos, and then I get to just win. And there's nothing you can do about it, and I don't have to be the best player in the room to be able to capitalize on that and win tournaments. When it gets to the higher levels, I do actually think Blue Farm is hard to play, and it's not I think any deck at the highest level is hard to play, but the reason Blue Farm becomes tricky is because you have to be politically able to navigate a lot of situations with your opponents and not just present wins. Like, you have to read when you have your windows, and I think it's, like we've talked about, one of the top 2 window decks in the format. And my other one is Rogthras. So I'll get into Rogthras just because it is my number 2, and I'm sure you guys will have a lot more to say on it because you've played the decks in tournaments quite a bit. I've dabbled, but I haven't really committed. I think the deck is fucking insane. Like, I don't understand why more people don't have it at number 2 or even number 1. Its ability to go really, really fast is insane. Having the like you said, the non-deterministic value plan that is really hard to interact with. There's not a lot of spells that you want to counter when Rogthras puts them on the stack because they're just slowly inching themselves ahead until that becomes exponential. And they get so powerful that you just can't overcome the board state. I also think having the backing of a 60-card player like Sam Black come in and really innovate with the deck has blown it up and made it to be better than any other deck, maybe aside from Nadu, in this short period of a time. And for me, I'd say the biggest thing, that the reason I have Blue Farm at number 1 and Rogthras at number 2 is because Rogthras is crippled by certain matchups and certain cards, and Blue Farm is not. And everyone knows Blue Farm is the best deck, but you can't really hate it. Like, you can counter its Rhystic Study, you can go after its Tymna, you can try and stacks it out, but it has no strictly bad matchups, and there's no one card that will just ruin Blue Farm's day.
Italian.
Yeah. The goal of Talion is to make every deck's bad matchup Talion, right? Except for like a Lumina, like you said. And so the biggest differentiator between those two is Rogthras has bad matchups, and there are certain cards that will blow Rogthras out of the game completely. And I just don't think Blue Farm has that. And the times that it does, with like Sisay or Magda, like decks that aren't casting a lot of spells and that are operating in a quicker vein, you can just tech against them. Like, you can have a Mayhem Devil or a Bowmaster and you can just completely annihilate them. So that's my 2 cents. I don't want to talk too much about it since I know we've been going for a while, but yeah, that's how I think about the 1 and the 2 for me.
I think it's fine. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad deck. I've personally lost faith in it over the last month or so playing it. So
yeah.
But my number, so I'll talk about Blue Farm. Do what?
I'll talk about it soon.
Yeah. So my number 2 is Kinnan. I don't know what it is about this deck. It pisses me off to no end. Legitimately. I don't think I lose more games to Kinnan just like turn 2 or 3 untapping and slamming a Basalt or just flipping into a Consphinx and then immediately winning. Probably more than any other deck in the format. Like, I think I literally just did this project the other day where I went through every player I've ever played against, and Kinnan was easily like the deck I've lost to the most. And it wasn't close. And I think a lot of that is just it's so every deck I've ever played against, Kinnan has had a pretty poor matchup into it, other than when I was on Nib Visit. I think it does everything TNT wants to do, but it does it a little bit faster. Especially like no bad cards TNT, where we're trying to set up like a good board state and then get mana and then convert that into a win. And Kinnan is basically doing the same thing, but all of its creature hits are way more impactful than ours. Like, there was a game where we were both Kinnan flipping one time, and all my flips were into like Dinky Dorks and little value pieces, and then he's hitting like Wandering Archaic and then the freaking Eldrazi that turns everything off, and it was just like this nightmare scenario of like can't get any advantage over it, and it's just a deck that I think is consistently whooping my butt. And I know its numbers aren't great, but who
cares?
Yeah, I the top pilots just destroy people on this deck, and they have for forever, right? Like, I know other players have struggled on these, but the top players have always destroyed people on it. Even when Kinnan is supposedly in a like bad meta, they still just dunk on people. And then I don't think it doesn't take a lot of skill to just turn 3 Slime Basalt. And I think the Kinnans I've seen recently a lot of them are just doing that. They're just slamming Basalt as fast as they can.
Yeah.
Like, the faster and it doesn't even take like a good hand for them just to be able to slam an early win on you. Like it's not like, oh, I have the God hand, so I can win turn 2. It's like, nope, I had a average kin in hand, and I just happened to draw the tutor for
Turn
Basalt.
2 is hard. Turn 2 is hard. Turn 3 is a lot easier.
That's fair.
Just because you need to get to the 6 mana mark a lot of times to tutor play Basalt. So like,
That's
generally it's turn 3.
Yeah. But like turn 2 usually is when they flip it. It feels like turn 2 is when I'm seeing them flip into something scary, and then turn 3 is when they just close on you, and you're like, oh, okay, well.
Depends on the hand. Average kin in hand is built around turn 1 Dork, turn 2 kin and Rock, turn 3 play land 7 mana. Like that's average kin and start.
Yeah. Like you said, it's the deck I think that I lose to the most by far. Yeah. More than Blue Farm, even though I still think Blue Farm is the better deck. I think the matchup has just always been more poor. Like when I was playing Marnius, when I was playing Nagila, when I've been playing TNT, I think it's just always Kinnon's just always had that number.
Yeah.
Niv was the one time where I just felt like I dunked on that deck the whole time I played Niv. I don't know why. But yeah. So yeah, Kinnon's at my number 2 just because my personal experience of the deck. It's hard for me to rank it lower considering how poorly I perform against it.
Vibes.
Vibe. We vibe.
We rank on vibe. We rank on vibes. Which brings us to our number 1, where I have Rogdrass. You guys both have Blue Farm. I think we can comfortably say. Yeah, like I said, Rogdrass, it's the ceiling. And I 100% hear what Zach's saying. Like the fact that Rogdrass has, I don't think it gets blown out the same way you're describing it as. Like we do have the pivot to breach the same as you guys, right? We're
Sure.
slightly worse breach deck than you guys, but we still have the pivot to breach. And
Like lower
I've won
tutor
games.
density for breach, right?
Lower, yes, like that's the big thing is we don't have the tutor density. People do like we have a bigger tutor density than you think. I'd actually be curious to compare because we have so many creature tutors that get Spellseeker, that get Gamble, that get Breach, and we do have the mana to actually do those lines.
Yeah.
So while it's kind of funky in terms of our total number of tutors, it's probably not as different than you think it is. Like we probably have like 6 ways to get it in some funky fashion or whatever. But generically speaking, the deck is ultra flexible. And when I'm looking at a deck that is powerful on every edge of the spectrum, holy fuck, can Rogdrass do everything? And it does it while not flying too close to the sun. And that's the biggest thing is you really do get away with more on Rogdrass. Like people don't just kill your Thrasios for no reason. Like the cards in the deck that are scary that people respond to are really it's Oboro, it's Seedborn Muse, it's Song of Creation, it's Breach, it's Displacer Kitten. Those are the ones that really pull out the interaction. Like outside of those cards, it's often a conversation where you can get something, right? Like you say people need to start hitting the cost reducers, and I mean sure the cost reducers are super good, but it's always a comparisons game, right? And it's a really weird thing to say, oh, you can't have that Biomancers, but Tymna can draw 3 cards every draw step, when you're going to pay 6 mana in this turn cycle to get the same thing. And that's the comparisons I've always been able to pull off on these like non-deterministic decks. Like that's what I used to do with Nadu, where like I had so many Blue Farm players scream when they were like, he has Manamo and Pendlehaven, he's drawing 2 extra cards. And I'm like, yeah, and they revealed and you just drew 2 on Tymna. Like what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I mean? And like literally just saying that, people are like, oh yeah, it's the same thing, but not as good as what Blue Farm's doing. And you get to get away with more for that reason. Like I have to pay mana to draw cards, you don't. You know, and the deck builds a lot of mana, and so that's one of the ways it gets away with more. And I'm not saying, oh, hit the cost reducers. Like, they are good to hit sometimes, for sure. But they often are able to get down because this deck is doing so much without winning. And that's its ultimate strength, is just, like, the developmental value while getting to not even fly under the radar. Like, people are aware of the value you're obtaining, but when you're against so many decks that are so clearly trying to quickly win the game or deterministically win the game, you're just a lower priority. Like that's just a reality, and it's also a reality that saying, oh, hit everything Rogdrass is doing to hinder them, just means all the other deterministic decks just quickly deterministically win. So it puts them in this awkward game of chicken where they're like, I need this interaction to stop the win attempt, but I also know Rogdrass is developing, and that puts me in a weird spot. And often the most correct choice is, yeah, I guess I let them develop, because if I don't let them develop, then I don't have my interaction, I just lose to the deterministic thing. And that's why I really value the being able to fly close to the sun highly enough to say the ceiling of this deck is higher. Because, honestly, I think one of Rogdrass's best matchups is Blue Farm. I love seeing Blue Farm at the table. I think it is a deck that eats Blue Farm alive, because when Blue Farm goes for a Ristic Study plan and you can make the table be responsible, you just dive into Thrasios, and you are able to outscale that pretty effectively. And then in terms of win conditions, I mean, the absolute density of combinations of things that win the game in Rogdrass is wild. And that's what's really blowing my mind is I'm on a highly interactive version of Rogdrass. Like I'm not a full control deck, but like I'm on a highly interactive variant. I have a huge counterspell package, a good bounce package. Like not the best removal, but like I have bounce and I have tons of stack interaction. So not full control, but like I definitely a more controlling variant of the deck. And that's existing in a space that's also able to win in like 100 different combinations of cards, which just it just makes Rube Goldberg machines of bullshit. And they're cards that, like you said, people just don't want to counter. Like, who the fuck is countering random bullshit? Like, who the fuck's countering a Thunder Trap Trainer? People look at that and scoff, and then it reveals Flare of Denial every time. And I'm like, this is so base. But it's also, yeah, the deck just does a lot of cool things, and I think that as a pilot who I feel comfortable saying I've mastered the deck at this point. Like, I have enough games on it. I think I've reached the mastery level with Rogdrass, and the only deck I've ever played that I think I've had a higher ceiling with is Nadu. And I've played a good amount of Blue Farm, and Blue Farm is disgusting. I've won almost every game I've ever played on Blue Farm. Like, deck's gross, right? And the ceiling on the deck is immaculate, and they're so close, they're right there. But when I think about the way my politics style works and the way I've seen, like, when you get to the upper echelon of pilots, all of them can politic well. There's not a fucking top tier player in this format that cannot be good at politicking. That is a requirement to play the game, and I think Rogthras politics better than Blue Farm. Like, I think the ceiling of politics with that deck is better than Blue Farm. You can make more reasonable deals that still let you develop while not winning, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Like we said, Blue Farm needs to make deals to achieve at the highest level. I 100% agree with you there. That is the correct way to play that deck, is to not be as deterministic. The same way we talked about with Sase, saying I'll get X thing and not win the game. Like, all those conversations, that's just a thing you have to do in CDH. And I think Blue Farm still puts itself in this awkward place where even when it's doing that, you know it's still so close, and you know it's able to win at all times. Rogthras, you don't look at and you say this can win at any moment. You don't always know when it's there. You don't always know what they're capable of. Like, a lot of things change the equation, and I think that when you get to this late game, it comes down to Blue Farm has to resolve one of a few very specific cards to win, and Rogthras has to resolve one of a billion different cards to win when you actually get all the gears churning in that late game. And I think just the ceiling of that reason and the way it can get to those positions very effectively when politic right, just a tiny bit higher ceiling. That's why I have it at 1.
Yeah. I mean, I talked about both, but just a lot of people have asked me, like, if I didn't bring Blue Farm to the NV, what would I have brought? And it was Rogthras. And I'd
Which
play
version?
it. Huh?
Which version?
Oh, I think it's a mix between yours and Pigeons.
Sure.
Yeah. But I think what you guys are doing is brilliant. Like, I genuinely believe this is, begun by Sam Black, to my knowledge, and then innovated by you and Pigeon. And I've been playing this deck, like, since, someone of my locals was like, hey, Sam Black just brewed this deck. And I was like, cool. Like, let's see what it does, but I haven't committed to it very heavily. And when I was doing all the time and prep on Blue Farm before the Envy, I just had to take breaks from the deck. Like, I can't play a deck exclusively. I need to try other things, and playing stuff like Rogthras gave me a healthy respect for it, and also helped me think about Blue Farm in a different way. And so getting to play Rogthras, I was just like, this is just, I just found myself being like, this is fucking broken. Like, this is insane.
It's broken when you know what it's doing, but it also is one of the lowest floors I've ever seen. Like, if you do not understand the lines and how to operate that deck and how to politic that deck, you are not going to succeed on that deck. Like, Rogthras does not have anything, does not touch the floor of TNK. Like, it's in a different fucking world of tiers below.
Yeah, I think that's very, very true. Similarly, like, Kinnan is in a similar spot where it's yes. Like, TNK has such a large ceiling, or such a large skill gap, and Rogthras kind of, in your opinion, I think you're saying it's like this big, but it might be a little higher, right? Like, where the ceiling can be a bit higher. So, like, let's say the floor of TNK is here, the ceiling's here, and you're saying Rogthras is like this, but shifted up.
No, I'm saying this is TNK, and then here's Rogthras ceiling, move up a millimeter, and then here's its floor. Like it's like the range.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, that makes total sense. But yeah, I genuinely think it's a broken deck. I've for a long time, been saying, like, I think this is one of the, if not the best, one of the best decks, and getting to play good Rogthras pilots is why I did that. So, like, getting to play you and Timogen in Colorado, being able to play you in Arizona, playing with some really strong Rogthras pilots online, getting to play Punchy at the Invitational. Like, I've seen what the best players can do, and it makes the deck look like a very different deck from what someone who's just casually kind of picking it up, So yeah, I just think the biggest reason why I wanted to play Rog Thras over TNK is because I truly believed its advantage state was really strong and its ability to win on the stack was better than Timnachrom, just because you can only develop so many advantage pieces in Blue Farm until a point when the game is just not going to keep drawing you cards with your Ristic Study. And your Timna and your Crom can only draw 3 cards a turn, right? And until you land like a Tithe and a Facebreaker, like you don't get to unlock, you don't get to go Super Saiyan in that deck. And so Rog Thras, I do think it's natural plan A, which in my opinion, like I hear you having the Breach plan, but like if you get wiped out early, it's pretty hard to develop your mana because your mana is primarily creature based and cradle based. And there's backup plans, but I think just Blue Farms having so many good cards and having so many tutors that are so low resources and having those rituals makes it so that even if you get your Ristic Study countered or your creatures blown up or whatever may happen, at the end of the day, your live draws are just so good that you can capitalize better. But I completely respect what you're saying, and I don't think it's incorrect to have it at 1, especially with how much time you've played the deck. I do believe that it's not quite at where Blue Farm's at.
Yeah, I don't think it should be at 1.
How have our tournament matches gone?
oh, you want to talk about which one? The one where I'm ult of 3 and the other players are bad, or the one where we went to time in 100 minutes and we were all trying to win on the stack?
About that game. That game makes me miserable. Makes me miserable.
It also, the one thing I will say about that game is it taught me how important it was to win in Swiss, and that's a big reason in the MV why I was pushing so hard to win in Swiss and to be like as high ranked as I could be, because I was like, I will never be in that situation again because that sucked. But yeah,
I got to be in the play on all of our games.
That too. Yeah.
I think there's actually a bigger gulf between, I think there's a significant gulf between how good Blue Farm is and Rog Thras is, to be honest. I think that there's a plenty of evidence of that. Everything from Blue Farm's astronomically high win rate to how many of them just dominated the Invitational. We saw one of the best Rog Thras players perform very, very poorly at the Invitational, right? In Sam Black. And the deck struggled pretty much the entire time from what I was seeing. Watched enough games where you could just tell the Rog Thras players were struggling. And I do think it's funny because you say Blue Farm flies too close to the sun, and I actually disagree with that completely. I think Blue Farm's biggest strength actually is that people are very fearful about what happens on the board and less fearful about what's happening in the hands.
Yep.
And that is a common issue that comes up all the time. You can draw 20 cards with Ristic Study and everyone goes, who cares?
Yeah.
But you put 20 mana worth or 20 card draw worth of creatures on the board and all of a sudden you're the fucking public enemy number 1. Even if my Seedborn untaps and I'm just drawing 1 extra card a turn, doesn't matter. I have literally become public enemy number 1.
True.
While Ristic Study literally drew them 6 cards in the same rotation.
True.
Right? That is Blue Farm's biggest advantage. Has been one of Blue Farm's biggest advantages. Is people just do not seem to respect cards in hand until at one point they'll ask and then you're like, oh, I have 17 cards in. And then they're like, oh wait, you're a threat now. And you're like, no, they were a threat the second the Ristic hit, motherfuckers. What the fuck? How did we get to this point? Right? And no matter I think that's the thing, right? When you're in pods, it's a lot easier to get this kind of tunnel vision about what's happening on the board and really just missing that one enchantment can be more impactful than the 5 dinky creatures I cast on my board. But all they see is I have too many, that player has too many permanents, and I see all those permanents. And so more permanents equals bigger threat, even though that's not always the case. And I think actually it's reverse of what you said, where Rog Thras flies incredibly close to the sun, gets burned all the time because people just get terrified of the deck. Whereas Blue Farm, no matter how many times it gets you, no matter how many times it fucking wins, no matter what it seems to do, people are just it's Ristic Study, I can deal with that later.
Yeah.
And don't realize, later's already here. Later just happened. When that card hit, the game just sped up tremendously. And I do not think that has ever stuck, right? Because if you're not playing Blue Farm, and you're playing a more mid-range deck, and you play down Ristic Study, you don't win very fast, right? You don't. And so I think there's that cognitive dissonance that exists there where because my Ristic study doesn't win fast, then Blue Farm's Ristic study doesn't win fast. And I don't traditionally think of Blue Farm as a fast deck, right? It's not a Rogsai. And so I do think that that is one of the things that Blue Farm continuously gets people on, is that it's faster than you think it is. But there's, like I said, there's just this mental block that exists for a lot of players where they're not thinking about like how quickly that deck can close on you if it draws 10 cards.
Yeah.
Like it's just over. Right. And if you let it do that, and a lot of players are just going to let them do that because, again, we've been trained in CEDH to let people draw as many cards as they want, and we'll just counter win conditions. But if you get outvalued too much, you don't have enough interaction to counter all the win conditions that come out if they've also drawn 10 cards to your 2. Yep. Right. Like that's the problem with it. And so I do think there's actually a very wide gulf, honestly, between Blue Farm and the rest of the format right now. I don't think it's so wide that like cards need to start getting banned yet, but I do think it's there, and like that's why I think like number 1 for me was like way up here, and like Kinnon's here for me. Like that's how far ahead I think Blue Farm is right now, and I think the Invitational like clearly proved that, right? Like it took one misplay while I was dominating a game for Sterling just to go whoop. I had Nas now.
Oh,
off of
I top decked
it. Was
it.
over. Right. Yeah. Like yeah. That's all it took. Right. Like in a game where I have drawn 10 cards up to that point, I couldn't close yet. And you know, that's something that I've also had the same issue when I'm playing like Rock Dress. Like, you know, I've drawn a bunch of cards and I'm sitting on a bunch of interaction. Great. And sometimes that's enough to win. But sometimes I've also had play patterns where I've drawn all this interaction and then player next to me tries to win. And then player across from them tries to win. And then finally player 3 pulls the win out. Like that's always been my issue with more control-y style decks is, do you have the interaction to survive when you pass for a full rotation? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no, right? Like that is a play pattern that just happens to you sometimes. Well, I think Rockdrass is an incredibly powerful deck. I do think it is significantly more fragile than Blue Farm is, just innately by the very design of the deck. And I do think it's easier to stop, and I do think it's easier to look at that deck and go, oh, you're the problem, and get the rest of the table to agree far more than it is to do so for Blue Farm. So that's why I think Blue Farm is far and away number 1 for me.
Yeah. I think you have extremely valid points.
I've thought about this a lot. Unfortunately, as I got dunked on this fucking past weekend while I was playing Rock Dance. Like watching a player who is so traumatized by apparently a Rock Dance player in their store who decided every turn he was going to interact with something I was doing. I've had that happen to me on TNT, and I've survived and been able to win games. In Rock Dance, I was not able to survive. It just did not happen to where he literally was hitting every like semi-important piece I put on the board. And I was just like, fuck, dude. Like, I'm just going to get blown the fuck out. And a Blue Farm player plays the Ristic study. And I look at the guy and I go, you got a counterspell for that? And he's like, nope. And I'm like, okay. Well, we're losing.
GG's.
Great. That's fucking fine.
Yeah. Right? Like, but he countered your Ristic.
Yeah. And my Enduring Vitality. And my fucking Biomancers.
It's so much
and my crop rotation. Yeah.
No, Rockthras is so much easier to hate than Blue Farm. And I think the thing, my mom said this actually. She's like, when I was first learning to drive, she was like, I think you're going to be a great driver, but the problem is at least 50% of these people are idiots. And so you have to watch out for the idiots when you drive. And I'm not calling anyone in CDH an idiot, but the fact that there are going to be bad players that are going to threat assess Blue Farm extremely differently than Rockthras, and because we spent so long in the Brian Koval era of Blue Farm's a mid-range deck, that people don't realize I can win on turn 2. It's like the threat assessment for Blue Farm and the way that people can attack Blue Farm is just worse than the way they can attack Rockthras by a lot. So I agree with what you're saying.
And Blue Farm just doesn't have any weaknesses. Like truly at its very core, it just doesn't have weaknesses. Like how do you attack card draw? You just have to be willing to remove what? Creator.
Weathered Runestone.
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, you have to have a deck that can run bad stacks pieces. No, just kidding. Or you have to be willing. Like, I actually think the play pattern of wiping out Blue Farm's Ristic has to become more prominent. Like the one game I did.
Why do people let them have a fucking Ristic, bro? I've been countering that shit for years.
The one game where I actually countered someone's Ristic study in the Invitational, it was Sterling in round 3, and he ended up demconning to save it and did not save it. He died to his own demcon.
But even when they counter the Ristic study, it's like, oh, I guess I'll just cast my Timna now with the bird you gave me from countering the Ristic, and I'll draw back into the game.
But Timna is so much slower, like so much slower.
It is.
Because you also have to have
the floor. It's the floor. It's
I
still
know.
just
I run a Timna deck. I'm well aware of the floor.
I know.
You run a worse Timna deck, but yeah.
No, fuck no.
You think your Timna plan's as good as the current build of Blue Farm?
No, absolutely not. There's a reason it's number one.
I mean. Yeah. But that's the thing.
I don't know. Actually, Tree Farm's Timna plan is pretty hot.
I still think Blue Farms is better.
It's so good, dude. That honestly,
we get so many cats.
Mayhem Devil is kind of a game changer. Like
that was a crazy card.
Like Mayhem Devil with Professional Facebreaker, like all these things. Like they have a lot of 3/3s as well.
That's not really a Timna plan though. Those are cards that are just generically powerful by themselves.
Professional Facebreaker is a Timna card. It's a menace attacker that makes you treasures and draws you cards when you have Timna. And it's a 2/3.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that card is probably generically powerful enough to go in most decks even without Timna. Just because of mana creation.
But I'm talking about the Timna plan versus Timna Thrasios. Like their Timna plan is just better.
That's fair. I mean, we could I guess that's fair. Professional Facebreaker is probably the best of those hits because we could run Grim Hireling and Rev, but we don't because 4 mana is a little inefficient.
Yeah, it's the fact that all the Timna creatures are also just good cards. Like they're all great on their own, and
you guys don't play Thunder Trap Trainer. I mean,
facts. Yeah, maybe we should.
Thunder Trap Trainer.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it is the best deck. And even when I was game planning for what can I attack on the weaknesses of TNK, literally the best card I came up with is Aven Interrupter.
Notion Thief.
Well, we talked about Notion Thief, but I think Notion Thief is a little too fragile. And I'm glad I didn't, considering how much Mayhem Devil was there.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the Envy. I really found my creature plan was what won me most of my games, especially the top 4. Like that was just creatures. I didn't have a Ristic study in the top 4, and that was good enough, which is crazy.
I felt the same. I felt the same way. All my wins in the Swiss were creature wins, and funny enough, the top 16 game I relied on the Wondering, and it did not get me there.
Yeah.
I really wonder if I'd have just been better off mulling for a better creature hand.
Bro, you counter one thing differently, you win that game.
I've actually been thinking about that. I actually don't know how true that is, because then the swords is still in Steven's hand, and then I have to deal with the swords on my turn. I don't remember if I drew a counterspell or if I would have drawn a counterspell.
But either way, you were going to draw 6 more cards and keep going. You probably win that game.
Hopefully. You'd think. Not always a guarantee, though.
I don't know. There's a reason TNT wasn't in the top 2. Went off those 6
Bro,
cards.
I don't know if you saw in the replay, when I did finally tap the Wondering and drew the 4 cards, it was all dorks. It was literally 4 dorks. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, God damn, that was rough.
Dorks are gas. But yeah, thank you for listening to the longest Colors or Crutch video of all time. If you've made it all the way to this point, you're a fucking homie, and we love you.
God, this is gonna be a nightmare to edit down.
Bro, you barely have to cut anything out of this. This is great. Who cares?
This was also I've done so many fucking podcasts in the past 3 weeks, and this is probably one of my favorite ones, just because we got to talk such in depth about tons of different things and hear all of our perspectives and comment on everything. This was truly a treat. So I really appreciate you guys for doing this.
Absolutely, we appreciate you being on.
Yeah,
leave that in. No, but yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the Colors of Crutch podcast. My name is Max Sternberg, also known as Wounded I was joined by my incredible co-host Jordan Drake, aka Steeleddragon, and we were joined by the homie, the LA Killer, the Blue Farm Innovator, Mr. Zachary Adler, winner of the TopDeck Invitational. All 3 of us individually offer CEDH coaching. You can contact me and Jordan on our Discord or on Twitter and all our various channels. We'll have links to all that stuff in the description below. Please join the Colors of Crutch Discord. There's a link to that description below, as well as a link to our Patreon. And Zach, tell the people about what they can expect from you, how they can contact you, all the things related to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you've made it this far and you're listening, thank you again. I run a YouTube channel. It's called Bite Size MTG, Bite Size Magic. You can find me there. I'm getting on more consistent release schedules now that I'm not, like I said, doing a billion podcasts a week. So I'm going to be recording more there. And then you can find me on Twitter. Probably figure out what my Twitter handle is. I think it's like Zachary Adler or something. You'll find it. And then on Discord,
We'll put a link in the description.
yeah, you'll find all the links down there. But yeah, feel free to hit me up about anything.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. We appreciate you. Bye.
Peace.